So that was for a mark of respect to that crisis in Israel and Gaza. Now the players are actually, some of the City players broke away from the centre circle, but they've been told to come back because now there will be a minute of applause for Franny Lee. And in fact, as I speak, there is a banner being unfurled with a portrait of Franny Lee with his arms held aloft, which is now just making its way down over the heads of those supporters on that far side. Franny Lee with his arms held aloft, and the sky blue shirt of Manchester City, an all-time great. 148 goals in 330 appearances. He helped City to the First Division title in '68, as well as success with the FA, the League Cup and the European Cup Winners' Cup. 27 times he was capped by England, and of course he was to later return as a club chairman for 4 years. But a wonderful ovation in memory of Franny Lee. A standing ovation for who Joe Mercer once said he was the final piece in the jigsaw for that holy trinity of Bell, Lee and Somerville. And you can't help but think of the iconic commentary from Barry Davies when ironically Franny was playing for Derby against Manchester City in '74. Interesting, very interesting. And then when he hit that belter of a goal, just look at his face. So that was a wonderful tribute to Franny Lee, who sadly passed away, a Manchester City legend. You're listening to BBC Radio 5 Live. We're live also on BBC Sounds. It's a designated weekend in the Premier League. No room for racism. And as the players take the knee, that too is applauded by the City and Brighton supporters, as our referee is Rob Jones. And we're underway. It's the usual goal service on a very busy, yet another busy day of sport on BBC Radio 5 Live. The rugby to look forward to, England against South Africa later, but not before we brought you Chelsea against Arsenal at 5:30. We'll be going around the grounds as we always do on a Saturday afternoon. But Manchester City in their sky blue shirts and white shorts are playing from left to right against Brighton and Hove Albion in their black and green striped away jersey, as Pedro looks to put some pressure on Ortega, who came out of his penalty area. But Brighton will go after the ball, and Kyle Walker came under pressure from Matoma, and in fact Brighton, as a result of that, get an early throw. But there is already an early service of intent from Brighton. They're going to go after City. Yeah, and they know no other way of playing under Roberto De Zerbi. Manchester City will be the same. They'll press Brighton high when they have the ball, so I think we can expect a lot of chances in this game. But as I said earlier, this is so important for Manchester City to get back to winning ways. There's a title race on this year. Well, so in fact a free kick, not a throw for Brighton, just up from the near side, the left, as they play from right to left. It's Gross who's going to leave it for March, and then eventually Gross will come back and take it again, and it comes off the shins of Erling Haaland, collected by Foden. But only once in Pep Guardiola's career has he lost 3 successive league games. That was during his time at Bayern. Never happened for Manchester City. In fact, the last time that they lost 3 in a Premier League in a row was 7 years ago under Manuel Pellegrini for Manchester City. But after those back-to-back defeats, that's what they're looking to avoid here today. It's going to be busy though as we go around the grounds, and already an early chance at Brentford. John Southall. And a chance for Brentford 0, Burnley 0. Quickly taken free kick into the feet of Neil Mopai, dragged it wide from 14 yards out. Brentford 0, Burnley 0. In the early games, Liverpool beat Everton 2-0 in the Merseyside derby. 2 goals for Mo Salah. Young sent off after 37 minutes, and at Deepdale, Preston North End 1, Millwall 1 is how it finished in the Championship. As Brighton, little flick by Pedro. Stepping forward out of defence was John Stones. Since those 22 minutes against Arsenal before the international break, He played just under half an hour against Australia and then just over an hour against Italy for England, and Gareth Southgate was making a point about how well England and Manchester City have worked with each other to try and help with managing that game time for John Stones as he comes back after that hip injury. We welcome listeners to the BBC World Service. Here we are at the Etihad in the northwest of England, Manchester City against Brighton and Hove Albion. So wherever you are in the world, it's always a pleasure to have your company. 0-0 here, no goals in the 3 o'clock games in the Premier League, but there has been a goal in the Championship at Carrow Road as Brighton play out from the back, and Flo Pollock.
Norwich take the lead. Norwich 1, Leeds 0. A Shane Duffy header from a corner, glancing header. Norwich 1, Leeds 0.
Cheltenham, who are yet to win this season, have taken the lead at home to Cambridge United. That's in League One. And news at St James's Park. Lee Blakeman.
Newcastle 0, Crystal Palace 0. Newcastle have had a goal disallowed. Trippier has given it to Murphy. Murphy has lifted it over the goalkeeper. Offside flag has gone up. VAR check taking place. Newcastle 0, Crystal Palace 0 at the moment. 4
minutes played in the sunshine here at the Etihad. 0-0. We'll be at Newcastle in midweek for Newcastle United against Borussia Dortmund. That's on Wednesday. The Champions League back next week. We'll be back in Manchester 24 hours previously at Old Trafford for Manchester United against Copenhagen. Both games live on 5 Live as Brighton win the ball in the midfield. Welbeck picks it up, the former United striker, to Matoma just outside the area. João Pedro, left corner of the box, dinks it back in low towards Matoma, takes it into the inside left channel of the penalty area with a cutback, but there was Alvarez to clear the ball away. There's been a wicket at the cricket, Ellie Oldroyd.
England are 67 for 5 in the 12th over, 400 the target. Joss Buttler the man out, caught behind for 15. England's World Cup subsiding horribly in Mumbai.
And they're chasing that total, a huge total of 399 for 7 from South Africa, and a collapse already for England, which is rather grim. England's rugby union players, I'm sure, will hope to fare better against South Africa in that second World Cup semi-final. You'll hear all the build-up from 7:30 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Alvarez just inside the centre circle. Foden now takes it over, and Foden coming forward. He's got Haaland ahead of him, and he passes the ball out towards Doku. And Doku now enters the penalty area on that left-hand side, and he shoots just wide. Goal kick, 0-0, straight to Newcastle. Lee Blakeman.
VAR have overruled the referee. Jacob Murphy's goal stands at St James's Park. Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 0.
And to Bournemouth, John Akers.
Where Wolves have hit the bar. Neto cutting in from the right, edge of the area, left foot shot, smashed off the crossbar. Bournemouth 0, Wolves 0.
Number of managers who are playing against their former sides today. You've got obviously the Bournemouth Wolves situation with Gary O'Neill. You've got Daniel Farke going back to Carrow Road. Alex Neil, Stoke City are against Sunderland, and in League Two you've even got Phil Parkinson of Wrexham going back to Bradford City. That's just 4 off the top of my head. There's 5.5 minutes played. What about that chance for Doku, Chris Sutton?
Yeah, Doku maybe a little bit surprised he got the nod ahead of Grealish, who's fit again, coming in off that left hand side, trying to feed the ball into the far corner, not far away.
Gvardiol offers the support, his low cross, strikes Beleba, comes then to Stones in a central position. Busy day of racing, Champions Day of course at Ascot. It's the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. John Hunt.
Yes, and we're nearing halfway here in really gloomy conditions now at Ascot, but the racing, the highest class. This is the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes then, and Big Rock, the raider from France, strides on with a 4-length advantage. He's really putting them up to it. In behind them, Caldine and Frankie Dettori just edge into second place now. High Royals in behind them, followed by the favourite Paddington. Tahira's going fine in behind the pace. Angel Blue comes next, but they're now on the run down towards the final 3 furlongs, and Big Rock has a massive lead over the field. He's 7 lengths clear. Caldine in second now starts to be ridden along. Tahira's still going well, but is now asked the question, has got 6 lengths to find on this French horse. Paddington looking anchored behind them, then an outsider staying on the outside, check and challenge, but they're now on the run down towards the final furlong. Big Rock remains clear by 5 lengths of Tahira from the back end of the field. Facteur Cheval, another French horse, staying on well, but Big Rock is out in front. What an amazing display. Big Rock still 6 lengths clear. He's going to win the QE2 for France in sensational style. Big Rock under Aurélien Lemaire Lemaitre wins for France. It's a French 1-2 as Facteur Cheval is second ahead of Tahira in third place, and Paddington and Caldine, two horses who've had amazing years, both finished tailed off. One for France here at Ascot, Ian.
Manchester City, while we're away, have taken the lead. Doku down the left, did ever so well, got to the byline, cut it back as Brighton now try and beat the City press. He pulled it back to Alvarez, and it was a left-footed finish high into the net.
Yeah, it was brilliant run from Doku. I said I was surprised he got the nod over Grealish. What do I know? But great run. He isolated Gross. Little burst to the byline, pulled it back. Wasn't the cleanest of finishes from Alvarez, who choked the shot into the floor, but great start for Manchester City.
That's 20 goals now in 35 starts for Manchester City for the World Cup winner. Fleetwood 0, Lincoln City 1. Lincoln, who sacked their manager Mark Kennedy during the week. Tom Shaw is in caretaker charge, so Chris Sutton's former club are ahead. Stoke City are leading Sunderland by 1-0, and Bolton Wanderers lead Northampton Town by 1-0. Let's get news of that goal from Aaron Paul at Stoke.
Stoke 1, Sunderland 0. Big goal for Alex Neil. Luke McNally winning a header just outside the area, playing in Ryan May, who controlled on his chest and toe poked home. Stoke 1, Sunderland 0. Stockport are leading at home against Grimsby by 1-0. They've won their last 7. Dave Challoner's side, top of League 2, so they're 1-0 up. In fact, they've got a second goal. Huddersfield leads Queen's Park Rangers by 1-0. Darren Moore yet to win since he took charge at Huddersfield. And Salford 1, Swindon 0. Burton 0, Bristol Rovers 1 is a latest score. Busy afternoon on BBC Radio 5 Live. Manchester City are 1-0 up, and there's been another wicket at the cricket. Ellie.
2 in 3 balls, Harry Brook out, LBW to Kurt Sear for 17, reviewed but upheld on review. South Africa are in among the bowlers now, with Willie and Rashid out in the middle. 68 for 6, England chasing a nominal 400 to win.
Commentary of that is on Sports Extra. This is BBC Radio 5 Live, the World Service and BBC Sounds, where Manchester City are already leading by 1-0. Exeter 0, Wigan 1 is the latest score in League 1. Here is Rodri. They missed Rodri, didn't they? After that 3-game suspension.
Absolutely. Manchester City, some of the big players that they've got, Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, but he has been a massive miss, Rodri.
Doku looks lively down that left-hand side. Again, he delivers the cross. That was superbly chested back by the England international Lewis Dunk into the arms of Jason Steele. Back to Brentford, John Southall.
Brentford 0, Burnley 0. Brentford thought they had scored. Neil Mopai heading in at the back post. VAR looked at it, but Christopher Ayer offside, interfering with play, and that's debatable. Brentford 0, Burnley 0.
Here is Akanji. Back with Kyle Walker. Leaves it for Akanji to take over just outside the centre circle of his own half. John Stones now has it. Nice, comfortable passage of play this from Manchester City, as Rodri dropping deep in between the two central defenders, passes the ball forward. Alvarez just over the halfway line lays it back to Kyle Walker. Another goal at Stoke, Aaron Paul.
Immediate reply from the visitors. Stoke 1, Sunderland 1. Joe Bellingham's initial shot parried away by Mark Travers, and there was Jack Clark to tap home for his 8th of the season. Stoke 1, Sunderland 1.
11 minutes played here. Manchester City lead by 1-0. Newcastle United are 1-0 up against Crystal Palace. Liverpool, ahead of the 3 o'clock games, went top of the table after their 2-0 victory against the 10 men of Everton. As Rodri collects that ball, he's been pressed high by Gross, back to Ortega, the City goalkeeper, but he manages not to panic and threads the ball through to Stones, and Stones now runs forward just short of the halfway line to Bernardo Silva, central area, out towards Guardiola on that far side, the left, carries the ball forward, has a shot, right-footed as well, and just patted down by Steele.
And that all started, that move from Ortega, being so calm, playing the ball out from the back, one end to the other. Guardiola, the Manchester City left back, driving inside, a bit safe with the shot, no real conviction with the effort. And comfortable save for Steele, who gets the nod in the Brighton goal today.
Yeah, they do chop it and change it between he and Verbruggen. They've beaten the press, and now it's out with Matoma. Already in these opening 12 minutes, as Matoma does ever so well, chopping onto his left foot and getting the shot away in the end low. But it was comfortably saved by Ortega. It's a lovely flow to the game, and the throw out from Ortega has released Doku, who surged away on that far side, because Milner had got forward, and in the end it was Dunk who had to come across to try and deal with that gap that had been left by and exposed and almost exploited because of Milner venturing forward. But there's a really nice flow to the game.
Oh, it's one team lands a blow, and then the other team lands a blow end to end. I think that's pretty much how we expected it. Sometimes you go into games and you think you have an idea how it will go and it disappoints. It doesn't seem like it's one of those games this afternoon. Brighton only know this way of playing, and of course Manchester City aren't going to take a backward step.
In my preview for the World Service, I said that this wouldn't be goalless. It did have goals in it, and we've already had one. Swindon have equalised at Salford. Salford 1, Swindon 1. And Crawley are leading Crewe by a 0-0. So their two latest scores in League Two. As Welbeck, has he just picked up a bit of a hamstring there? He's just been in the back of his right leg as Danny Welbeck ran forward.
Yeah, he's looking at the bench. Yeah, he
pulled up short.
Yeah,
he's tweaked something, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's had a look at the bench, and Rodri kicks the ball out. They've got options though. Evan Ferguson, that wouldn't be a bad replacement.
No, it wouldn't. Talking about Brighton's goal involvement, 37 goals have been scored in their 8 Premier League games so far this season. 21 for, 16 against. Only Granada have been involved more in Europe's top 5 leagues. I was going to say 38, but they lost 2-0 away to Osasuna last night, so that's 40 goals that Granada have been involved in. But that gives you an indication of how entertaining Brighton and Hove Albion have been.
Yeah, and am I right in saying De Zerbi talked about they need to tighten up a little bit? I mean, it's an amazing start to the season. I think they're the Premier League's top scorers, but then if you're conceding 2 goals a game, which they are on average,
yeah,
I mean that's not great, but it's a consequence of their brand of football. And I tell you what, if you're a Brighton fan, you're loving it, aren't you?
Yeah, well. The goal that they've conceded today means that they haven't kept a clean sheet now in 16 successive games in all competitions. Welbeck is still down. There's been a goal at Bournemouth. John Akers.
And it's come for Bournemouth. What an important goal this could be. It's a lovely finish. Cheeky as you like from Tavernier. It's a little Cruyff behind the back of his leg after a low cross from the right. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0.
Huddersfield Town have got a second goal at home to Queen's Park Rangers. QPR, who've lost their last 3. Let's get an update from Nottingham Forest. Pat Murphy.
0-0 against Luton, but 3 half chances for Luton's Brown. Just now didn't quite time it past the right post. Then he couldn't just get to a low cross, and then he slipped out when he had a good chance. But Luton are giving as good as they're getting. It's Forest 0, Luton 0.
Welbeck unable to continue, and he is replaced by Evan Ferguson, who only turned 19 on Thursday. The young Irish striker is on instead of Welbeck. So we will now go elsewhere in the Premier League, and it will be to Lee Blakeman in a moment. In fact, we can go there now as Brighton concede a throw with a thunderous challenge from James Milner that has floored Doku. Lee.
Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 0. Newcastle dominating possession, but Palace have just had a great chance to equalise. Corner sent in from Hughes. Mateda, unmarked with the header, just went wide. Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 0.
Solanke with that goal for Bournemouth, incidentally, after 17 minutes. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0. Dominic Solanke, as that was a good old-fashioned challenge from Milner, wasn't it?
It was a ferocious challenge. You know, James Milner's not going to hold back, and Doku actually. He just sort of avoided Milner, but because Milner had committed, he went up so high in the air and landed awkwardly, but he's back on his feet. Doku is.
4 trophies during his time at Manchester City. 2 Premier Leagues, an FA Cup and a League Cup. As here is João Pedro. Little ball inside. Surging forward now onto this was Ferguson. He finds Matoma. Ferguson will go on the overlap as well if required. Matoma holds onto the ball left corner of the penalty area in the black and the green for Brighton and Hove Albion, trailing by a 0-0. Bolton now lead Northampton by 2-0. Kilmarnock are 1-0 up at home to Livingston in the Scottish Premiership. You're up to date. 5 Live in the World Service. Manchester City lead by a 0-0. Stones gets a challenge in on João Pedro, and now it's with Julio at the back for Brighton. Curls the ball intended towards Solly March, who's playing at left back. The interception from Foden, who eventually goes to ground. I've got to say that's unfortunate on Phil Foden. Matoma's barged in from behind. Phil Foden, to his credit, tries to stay on his feet, but it was a losing battle.
Was it not shoulder to shoulder? Mitoma just a little bit stronger. There's a little nudge.
Well, I never realised that Phil Foden's shoulder was on the site of his 47 white numbers on the back of his shirt. Rangers Hibs, Conor McLaughlin.
Rangers got the advantage. It's Rangers 1, Hibs 0. Dallas Sima for his 10th goal of the season, shrugging off the Hibs defence and rifling it into the back of the net from about 15 yards out. Rangers 1, Hibs 0.
We'll have commentary tomorrow from 2:15. Hearts Celtic. Here is Haaland. Haaland runs forward. What a finish from Haaland! He's never gone 3 Premier League games without scoring, and he certainly wasn't going to miss that chance. He's rifled the ball into the bottom right-hand corner, left-footed, and Haaland increases City's lead with a super goal.
Yeah, it's a mistake in the Brighton midfield. Baleba, the youngster, dwelling on the ball. Haaland pinches it off him. He's barely had a kick in this game, Erling Haaland. He takes the ball off Baleba, moves to the edge of the Brighton box, and that left foot of his, it's like a hammer, isn't it? It really is. Picks his spot, beats Steele at his near post. Precision finish from Haaland. Has a little look up, and that's a devastating finish. Manchester City in easy street.
So Haaland takes his tally to 9. Alvarez with the earlier goal, he's got 7. Manchester City are leading by 2-0, and already they're looking well set for a 21st consecutive win here at the Etihad in all competitions. Crawley 1, Crew 1 is the latest score in League 2, and you are up to date with the goals as they go in, but Manchester City leading 2-0.
What they've done really well, Ian, in this opening 20 odd minutes, they have smothered Brighton in the middle of the park. They're going man for man in there, and Brighton just haven't been able to play with their normal fluency. Out from the back, Manchester City have made that really difficult, and Haaland there, he's such an incredible player, isn't he? I mean, you know, I think this season we're all viewing, is it fair to say we're viewing him as a little bit below par, and has already got 9 Premier League goals?
Well, listen, 61 goals now in 65 and not even a half appearances, so he's just incredible. Brentford Burnley, John Southall.
Brentford pushing for the goal here. Brentford 0, Burnley 0. Eye across from the right hand side, unmarked, was Onyeka 10 yards out as a shot just saved by Trafford to his right hand side. Onyeka 10 yards out, saved by the keeper. Brentford 0, Burnley 0.
They met here on the same weekend last year. It was the 22nd of October. Manchester City won 3-1 that day. Haaland scored 2, including a penalty. De Bruyne and Trossard was on the score sheet for Brighton. A Brighton side, and their supporters will certainly not need reminding of this, have never won in 13 league visits away to Manchester City. They've lost 11 and they've drawn 2, and those draws came in the early 80s under Alan Mullery and then Jimmy Melia, and of course both matches were played at Main Road. But here at the Etihad, Manchester City lead by 2-0 already. Swansea 1-0 up against Leicester City. So the leaders, Leicester City, going so well. Swansea have won their last 4. They've turned things around, and Swansea are ahead at the Liberty Stadium as Doku on that left hand side, he's looked lively already. Alvarez plays the ball back. Vardiol now with Akanji. Southampton are leading at Hull City by 1-0. Hull 0, Southampton 1 is a latest scoreline, as here is Akanji, and Manchester City just keeping the ball, and Doku seems to be available every single time. He's open and available. Here he cuts inside once more, pulls it just slightly behind Haaland. He's looking a threat every time he picks it up.
I mean, it's in fairness to James Milner, he's been a great player, but stuck out at right back in those 1v1 situations at his age against Doku, who has only one thought in his mind. He's getting the better of Milner all the time.
Bernardo Silva now sends over a cross, headed up by Dunk and eventually caught by Jason Steele, all in orange away towards our right hand side, and he looks to come forward. We've been playing now for midway through the first half here on BBC Radio 5 Live, where Manchester City are leading already by 2-0. Steele now City are poised. Well, they're still looking to throw it out from the back. Go short. Steele then gets it back. You've got Alvarez and Haaland inside that penalty area. Rodri and Bernardo Silva on the edge of the box, but again they beat it, and Ferguson now looks towards Matoma. And it's seen back by Walker to Ortega, whose loose ball almost gave a sniff towards Ferguson. But both sides are looking to play out from the back. It really is making for such an attractive game. Bernardo Silva now will curl it out towards Doku. Milner's got to go out towards him. He comes in with pace, enters the penalty area, fires it in low, and Dunk at full stretch clears it away. There's now been a goal at Brentford. John Southall.
Brentford 1, Burnley 0. It was coming, really well worked goal. Mope slid it through to Mbumo, and he played it across to Johan Wieser. First goal since the 19th of August for him. Can they hold on to this lead though? Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
And it means that Burnley, as well as Brighton, are still one of four sides who are yet to keep a clean sheet in the Premier League this season. Luton Town might have something to say about it. Sheffield United likewise too, and they entertain Manchester United a little later on tonight as Rodri turns towards Walker. Walker's going to spread the play back out towards the left. Doku's the go-to man at the moment. Everything down that left-hand side for Manchester City. Guardiola now delivers the cross. Foden with a downward header, and at the edge of the 6-yard area it's hooked away by Julio.
Yeah, just a bit of a coming together between Alvarez and Pascal Gross there. Alvarez felt that Gross blocked him making a run into the box, and then Alvarez got up in a bit of a huff and shoved him over. Needs to keep his head, Alvarez, but Doku is the go-to guy for Manchester City so far in the opening 25 minutes. He's been a constant threat. Clever use of the ball there, knocked down by Foden on the switch, and comes to nothing. I think they're just checking this.
Yeah, but again, you wouldn't know this. As the paying supporter inside the stadium, you wouldn't know that there's a VAR check. But we can only surmise that there is, because Rob Jones, the referee, has not allowed play to restart. There's nothing on the TV screens here inside the stadium.
I mean, you know, the listeners are lucky I saw that, really. Albeit it's my job. But yeah, there's Alvarez shoves Gross in the sort of throat region now. I mean, it just depends, this one, on the referee. Are they playing on? They are playing on. I mean, I'm surprised there's not a card shown there. A yellow card, I think, would have sufficed.
Well, Rob Jones lets play go on. Long clearance downfield, headed up in the air by Walker, and then Gvardiol running in for his left back roll. Took it away from Matoma, who was waiting for that ball to drop. Now it's with Foden coming forward for Manchester City. He gets away from João Pedro, coming across the surface, nicks it inside. Referee plays the advantage. There may have been a foul. Bernardo Silva helps it out towards Doku, enters the penalty area. Doku close, right-footed, just wide. Goal kick to Manchester City. Again, some superb football from the champions. They lead by 2-0 as we'll get an update from the cricket in Mumbai. Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, I was about to say that England have steadied the ship, but the 7th wicket has just fallen. Adil Rashid caught at slip bowled by Coetzee, and I'm not going to say that he was one of their few batting hopes, but he's one of the few to get into double figures. Out for 10, England 84 for 7 now. In the 16th over, 400 is the target.
Yes, after South Africa had rattled up 399 for 7. England in response, 84 for 7. Commentary continues on Sports Extra. Doku with another chance.
I mean, that's a total mismatch, isn't it? Doku against James Milner, coming in on his right foot again, which he's always trying to do, and he wasn't far away there. I think Milner, if he had a towel, well, we know he's not going to throw it in, but it's that one side of that contest.
And City just keep on getting the ball out towards that far side. It's like watching something on a loop at the moment. The ball just keeps going out to Doku. As here is Alvarez, who got the first goal. Haaland since added to it. Now they play the ball across the back. Crawley 2, Crew 1 is the latest scorer in League 2. Foden now, delightful ball with the outside of his left foot towards Alvarez. Back to Foden once again, coming forward. Square then towards Bernardo Silva. And Manchester City, well, after the international break, sometimes you can catch teams cold. Not Manchester City. They really are in the groove here today. Newcastle United, Crystal Palace, Lee Blakeman.
Newcastle 1, Palace 0. Jacob Murphy should have his second though. Quick free kick, fell for him, 20 yards out, put in the shot. Good save away to his left by Johnston. Newcastle 1, Palace 0.
Ball out with Doku once more. Hull City have equalised at home to Southampton in the Championship. Bernardo Silva, little touch by Gvardiol, level the penalty area. Doku back towards the Croatian. Inside now to Rodri at a walking pace. He goes square midway through the Brighton half. Now they work it out towards the right hand side. Foden rolls the ball forward with the left foot. Plays it back then to Walker, back to Foden. They've got such a good understanding on this right-hand side. Stones gets involved too. Leyton Orient lead Barnsley by a goal to nil. Back with Stones, a former Barnsley player. Now with Akanji, and now to Rodri. And then the ball is switched back out towards Doku. Keeps finding space on that far side. Milner keeps tucking in. Here is Doku, just inside the penalty area, rolled back out towards Gvardiol, left corner of the area, plays it short to Bernardo Silva, tries to get away from the challenge, might break towards Foden, don't make sure that it doesn't, but Manchester City get the back. It's one-way traffic.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's wave after wave from Manchester City. Doku, whether you would describe him as an old-fashioned winger, but he stays on that touchline, doesn't he? Gets the ball, gives Manchester City that width off the left, and he's very, very direct.
Sutton nil, Morecambe 1. Haaland is certainly direct, and he's running forward now, and he looks for a cross, takes a deflection, gets a corner kick. Corner kick to Manchester City. They're looking threatening at every single time they come forward.
Absolutely, a bit of space in behind as well for Erling Haaland. You know how quick he is. Julio stood up to his task pretty well there. The ball goes out for a Manchester City corner, but this is so one-sided at present.
Burton 1, Bristol Rovers 1 is the latest score in League One. Corner kick far side the left for Manchester City, who lead 2-0. Foden to take it far side. It's an outswinger, headed up rather than away by Dunk. Adingra tries to get onto the end of that. He runs into Bernardo Silva. Foden lets that bouncing ball go through towards Doku, comes back to Foden, lifts it forward to the Belgian. Milner goes across to deal with it, keeps the ball in play, and then that will be a foul on Milner and a free kick to Brighton. Let's get an update in the Championship. Swansea-Leicester, Chris Coles.
Swansea in front against the Championship leaders. Matt Grimes, fine strike from the edge of the penalty area, took a little nick on its way through, but Swansea, good value for their lead, leading Leicester by a goal to nil.
In the Premier League earlier, Liverpool beat Everton in the Merseyside derby by 2 goals to nil. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0, Brentford 1, Burnley 0. Forest Luton is goalless. Here Manchester City are leading by 2 goals to nil, and the latest at St James's Park comes from Lee Blakeman.
Newcastle still leading 1-0. How it's not 2, I have no idea. Ball in from the right, found Anthony Gordon unmarked, back post, 5 yards out. He had to score, and he hit the crossbar. Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 0.
Milner was coming in field to collect a ball from Steele. There was no foul as he was challenged by Doku. Back into the box it goes, and Julio knew that he had Haaland running in behind him, and he glances the ball behind for a corner kick.
Great understanding, Phil Foden off that right hand side for Manchester City. That luscious left foot of his dinks a ball in behind. Haaland making the run, Julio doing the right thing, taking no chances, heading it behind.
Alvarez takes the acclaim of the supporters who stand up as he walks across to this near side the right for the corner kick. Foden's available as the short option. Left arm goes aloft. Manchester City still leading 2-0. Alvarez now with a right-footed corner, and it's headed out by Julio. Might draw, in fact, Stones and Doku put each other off, but it's Doku who knocks it back to Walker inside the centre circle. Bernardo Silva on the halfway line. Bernardo Silva will go back to Walker. Let's get an update from Carrow Road. Flo Pollock.
Norwich 1, Leeds 0. Still, Norwich just had a goal disallowed. It was again Shane Duffy with a header, but there was a foul in the build-up. Norwich 1, Leeds 0 still.
Accrington are leading MK Dons by a goal to nil. MK Dons, who appointed the former Gateshead manager Mike Williamson during the week, but MK Dons without a win in 8, and they are behind at Accrington. As the ball goes back to Steele, and he plays it forward.
That was John Stones had made a run as centre half, high up on that right hand side, and Phil Foden with a little back heel, not far away. But that sums up Pep and Manchester City, doesn't it? They are so fluid the way they play.
That's the voice of Chris Sutton on BBC Radio 5 Live. No 6:06 tonight because of the live rugby, that second Rugby Union World Cup semi-final, as Matoma flicks it towards Gross. Gross couldn't keep that ball in play on this near side, but Brighton haven't really had much of an opportunity to trouble City and Ortega in their goal.
And I think a lot of, we talk about Manchester City, how good they are on the ball, but they've really disrupted Brighton's rhythm. They've flooded the midfield. They've gone man for man. Manchester City have in the middle of the park, and they're not letting Brighton play out. It hasn't been comfortable at all for Brighton. Mitoma's looked a little bit of a threat off that left-hand side, but unfortunately for him, he's up against Kyle Walker, who's in the form of his life.
Akanji under pressure, sweeps it out to this side where Walker and Mitoma going for an aerial duel, won by the England international, now picked up by Stones, passes the ball forward to Silva, Toe ends it to help it on its way towards Doku, and Doku now is almost level with the penalty area on that far side the left. Bernardo Silva just trotting behind him, but Doku wriggles away, passes the ball in towards Alvarez, couldn't quite take it into his stride, but a sliding dunk clears the ball out of play for a throw as we go back to Brentford and John Southall.
Somehow it's still Brentford 1, Burnley 0. Mopai through on goal, saved by Trafford. The ball rolled towards the line, cleared off the line by O'Shea, then Mbeumo on the edge of the area. Again there was Trafford, and he is keeping Burnley in this. Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
It's a dry afternoon here in Manchester, but you can tell now that Indian summer we've bid farewell. We're now into autumn because Pep, he has the chunky roll neck sweater, sporting that, a grey little number as he walks out into his technical area, looking as suave and sophisticated as ever as the ball is played out towards that far side, and Beleba wins the ball back. How is Pedro? Gvardiol wins it back.
Is that not a bit like the old Captain Haddock top, was it, in Tintin? No?
Listen, if it's good enough for Pep, it's good enough for me. Here is Stones. Foden along the ground. Oh, don't let it run through in the penalty area. It must have got the shout from Milner behind him, picked up by Steele.
I mean, even that as a setup, Phil Foden against Solly March. Solly March has been a brilliant player. He can play so many positions, but got to say, Foden driving at Solly March with the ball, that seems to be a bit of a mismatch as well. He's happy to Zerbi though, saying, well, do you know what, I'm going to leave you isolated, you're just going to have to deal with that.
Livingston have equalised at Rugby Park. Kilmarnock 1, Livingston 1. Adingra picks it up on that far side. That flash of white in his black hair on that far side for the Ivory Coast international. One of a handful of Brighton players who were away representing their countries as Oxford United lead Blackpool by a goal to 0. Second in the table this morning. They've won 9 of their last 10 as Rodri to Gvardiol. At a walking pace for Manchester City, diagonal ball to Rodri. He's still not happy though, Guardiola. I mean, you wouldn't believe looking at him now that his side are leading by 2 goals to 0. He's complaining to Gvardiol that he wanted the ball going out left.
Keep giving it to Doku.
To Doku. Meanwhile, the referee Rob Jones has just gone and booked Solly March for that foul.
Yeah, I spoke about that being a mismatch with the greatest respect to Solly March. Foden ball just popped into him short, and March got too tight. Foden so aware, isn't he? Used his body well, rolled him, and March pulled his shirt.
Well, due to injuries, you've got Milner as a right back, March playing as left back, as he did against Liverpool in the previous game before the international break. Walker will go back to Ortega from that free kick. City still lead by 2 goals to 0. What's the latest Nottingham Forest Luton Town? Pat Murphy.
It's 0-0 here, Ian, but Forest they are being thwarted because Luton are giving it a go. Chong on the left wing, he's having a really good game. Ever willing, tricky, a chest down just now, volley 25 yards out straight at the keeper. They're playing well, Luton. It's 0-0 at the City Ground.
Thanks, Pat. Doku's just rolled away from Milner with an outstretched leg. Milner must be on very, very edgy ground because there's no way that Milner was going for the ball there, and I thought that could have easily resulted in a yellow card.
Yeah, I mean, Doku has had a brilliant start to this game, 36 minutes, and said it's a mismatch. He is just toying with James Milner. He really is. Got the pace on Milner, got the skill on Milner, and it could be a long afternoon. I just wonder whether De Zerbi will think about maybe making a change in that position.
Veltman's on the bench.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Peterborough 0, Wycombe 1 is the latest score from London Road in League One, but it goes back out towards Doku once again, and Doku running forward, a back-pedalling Milner, enters the penalty area, plays it in low, Foden's first touch, maybe let him down, wins it back, tries to get it on to target. Brighton get it away, only as far as Guardiola, pass it towards Doku, inside now towards Bernardo Silva, chips it across, headed away by Julio. I feel as if I'm repeating myself, but that is the way it's going every single time.
Yeah, and do you know what? From Manchester City's perspective, why not? It's working. Doku, a constant threat on that left, and here they go again, teaming up. Silva out to Doku.
No wonder Guardiola was having a go at Guardiola for not passing the ball towards the Belgian. There's been another wicket at the cricket. How many is that, Ellie? 8 down?
It's 8 down now. Dano, yes, 102 for 8. You're talking about mismatches. This is a horrible mismatch here. David Willey, the latest man out, hit a 6 off Ngidi and then brilliantly caught by Rabada the very next ball. He was out for 12. England are not only going to lose here very, very heavily, it's going to do horrible damage to their net run rate as well. England 102 for 8. They're still 298 runs short of victory.
There's been an increase, commentary on Sports Extra, by the way, there's been an increase in the amount of yellow cards shown in the Premier League this season by something like 40%. And Rodri's just been shown a yellow card. The whistle had gone, and then he just chips the ball into the back of the net over Steele. But Rob Jones shows him a yellow card for kicking the ball away. And there he's now booked.
Yeah, but I'd like to see that again, actually. But Rodri unhappy about that. But if that's what referees are told to do, to brandish a card for that. It seems slightly harsh, but there you go. Abide by the rules, Ian.
Our featured game in League 2 is at Priestfield, Gillingham, Notts County. Katie Smith.
Yeah, and the goal has gone to the visitors. Gillingham 0, Notts County 1, tapped in by top scorer Macaulay Longstaff. His 9th goal of the season from close range. Gillingham will be kicking themselves though. Just had such a good chance on the counter. Bond screaming for the ball, but they trail by a goal to 0.
Have you just seen Guardiola clapping now above his head because the ball did go to Doku on that side, on the left-hand side? City still lead 2-0. What's the latest at Bournemouth? John Akers.
Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0. 4 minutes till the break here. Solanke with a lovely little finish behind the back of his leg from close range after a cross from Billing. It's 1-0 Bournemouth.
Doku coming forward again on that left-hand side, left corner of the area, back now towards Stones. The central defender playing just outside the Brighton penalty box. Guardiola, the left back, now with Akanji. Kyle Walker is the furthest player back for the Sky Blue of Manchester City in the centre circle of the Brighton half, as Bernardo Silva now stands over the cross. March is tucked in, the left back for Brighton, heads it away, headed back by Stones, headed out by Rodri, now towards Foden, faced up by March. Now with Rodri, and they play the ball back to Kyle Walker as a shaft of sunlight comes through into that area of the pitch where Manchester City are coming forward, and Guardiola passes the ball out. Bernardo Silva lets it run through towards Doku. Bernardo Silva remains in close proximity. Guardiola had made a run forward to the left side of the penalty area. Stones gets involved, back out towards Doku, closed down this time by Adingra. They've almost doubled up on Doku on this occasion, but still he has the ball to his feet. 4.5 minutes to go to half time. Manchester City lead by 2-0, and Roberto De Zerbi, who's been linked with a potential replacement for Pep Guardiola whenever Guardiola should move on, just watches on in his casual black training outfit with his white pumps, and just must be thinking, wow, the respite will come in a few minutes' time. Brentford, Burnley, John Southall.
Brentford 1, Burnley 0, but the number of chances Brentford have had is absolutely ridiculous. Norgard's shot off Visa there was Trafford saving to his left hand side. Mope's just had one tipped over again by Trafford, the one man standing in their way. Burnley are all over the place. Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
Ball played forward by Bernardo Silva. Doku once again on that left hand side, he accelerates, he's beaten Milner, delivers a low ball in, cleared away by a sliding dunk once more. Look towards Haaland. Did I hear you purr in the background there, Chris Sutton, as the ball is played in towards Alvarez, and he gets there ahead of Baleba. City too sharp.
Yeah, well, Doku has just been too good, hasn't he? Really has been. I actually took him out of my fantasy team this week. What an idiot.
Well, you said it. Here is Foden to Alvarez. Now with Akanji. Gvardiol helps it out towards Doku. Kilmarnock 2, Livingston 1 is the latest score in the Scottish Premiership. Peterborough have equalised at London Road, 1-1 at home to Wickham. Doku slides it in, just stepping there out of defence was March for Brighton. He looks towards Matoma, but Stones running back, and Manchester City once again win the ball back, and they are once more in possession. Another goal at Carrow Road, Flo Pollock.
Norwich double their lead. Gabriel Sara in the box, twisting, turning, smashes it into the back of the net just before the half-time. It is Norwich 2, Leeds 0.
That's got a smile on the face of Chris Sutton. Norwich City leading Leeds United by 2-0 at Carrow Road. 2.5 minutes to go to half-time here at the Etihad on BBC Radio 5 Live as Haaland now to Bernardo Silva. He wants the return ball, and Haaland making that run. Dunk cuts it out towards Milner. Milner gives the ball away, picked up by Bernardo Silva. Now with Haaland looking for the ball inside towards Phil Foden. They go hunting for the ball though to Manchester City. They really do show great intensity. They've got it back. Doku on that far side, the left, and it runs it out for a goal kick. And there's been another goal at St James's Park. Lee Blakeman.
2-0 Newcastle. Anthony Gordon back from suspension has got it. Murphy sent in the cross towards the back post. Nobody picked up Gordon. Lovely finish right on half time. Newcastle 2, Crystal Palace 0.
We will be going racing again very soon. It's the Champion Stakes at Ascot. With John Hunt. That will be coming up very, very soon. Queen's Park Rangers have reduced the arrears at Huddersfield. Huddersfield Town 2, Queen's Park Rangers 1 is the latest score in the Championship. Darren Moore, who's yet to win, he's drawn 3 and lost 1 since taking charge for the Terriers in the Championship. And here, Manchester City have terrorised Brighton.
Yes, they have done. I think it's only one of the first times I've seen Brighton play where there's a bit of fear, there's a little bit of doubt. They're normally so composed, have that real belief on the ball, but Manchester City haven't allowed that to happen. They've just suffocated Brighton, and Brighton haven't been able to get up the pitch enough.
Well, here is João Pedro, and he was caught by Alvarez. And inside the last 60 seconds of this first half, Brighton will get a free kick on the halfway line right to the centre circle. A goal at Swansea City, Chris Coles.
The Championship leaders are level on the stroke of half-time. Swansea 1, Leicester 1. Yannick Vestergaard, his first for the club, arriving late at the back post to bundle home. Swansea 1, Leicester 1.
As promised, we're going racing. It's the Champion Stakes at Ascot, and as ever, John Hunt.
Yes, the last of the big races here at Ascot. The last race in Britain for Frankie Dettori before he heads off to America to end his career there. His ride here is King of Steel, the runner-up in the Epsom Derby, who sits in last place as they race past halfway. The leader is My Prospero, out in front narrowly from Royal Rhyme, two of the bigger price runners. Another one, Point Lonsdale, in behind in third place. Bay Bridge, last year's winner, sits in fourth. He's followed then by the favourite for France, Horizon D'Or, to the outside with Via Sistina and Dubai Honor, and Frankie Dettori in last place still on King of Steel. The turn for home is on. The Champion Stakes field led by My Prospero. My Prospero in front from Royal Rhyme in second place. Bay Bridge going strongly in third. Then comes Point Lonsdale. Horizon D'Or for France on the outside with Via Sistina, and Dettori trying to come wide now on King of Steel, but he's got to pick up to the tune of 3 lengths. My Prospero being challenged now on all sides. Here comes Horizon D'Or and Via Sistina and Royal Rhyme. A length or two back is Dettori on King of Steel. He's getting close, but will it be close enough? Furlong to go in the Champion Stakes. Via Sistina, King of Steel now kicking in. Is Dettori to finish in Dreamland? King of Steel's coming for Dettori. Via Sistina still in front, but in the last strides, King of Steel got up to win it. Frankie Dettori punches the air. His second winner of the day. His last ever ride here in Great Britain, ending a 36-year career which started with a win as a youngster in 1987. All of those Jockeys Championships, all of those classics later. The most recognisable face in British racing, one of the most recognisable faces in sport. Frankie Dettori ends this absolutely astonishing relationship with racing in Great Britain with a big
big winner. How appropriate was that? King of Steel, never mind him. It's King Dettori. Ends his career, heads off to America now. What a result for the Italian. Ian.
What a story, what a showman, and as John says, horse racing royalty. He wins on King of Steel. I'm sure there will be reaction in Sports Report with Mark Chapman at 5 o'clock, where as always we'll give you the results and the reaction here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Bristol City lead Coventry by 1-0 in the Championship. Sutton 0, Morecambe 2 is the latest score in League 2. Rangers lead Hibs by 2-0. Grimsby have got a goal back at Edgeley Park. It's Stockport 2, Grimsby 1, and whilst there's no change here, still 2-0 to Manchester City. Another goal at Newcastle, Lee Blakeman.
Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0. Terrible error at the back for Palace by Mark Gay. The ball fell for Longstaff, through on goal, slotted it in. Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0.
Peterborough 2, Wycombe 1 is the latest score in League 1. Sutton 1, Morecambe 2, and you're up to date 5 Live and the World Service. We're into 4 minutes of added on time, where Manchester City are still comfortable at 2-0, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, it's as comfortable, I think, as I've seen them all season. Manchester City totally dominant. I just wonder whether De Zerbi will think about maybe a change of personnel at half time, but yeah, I think their issue's been real lack of belief. They have their way of playing, they have their passages or patterns of play out from the back, but they haven't found any flow, any rhythm. But that's because Manchester City have pressed them really well.
Julio to March at left back. I mean, Brighton are on a run of a club record run actually of scoring in 17 successive away games. But in this first half, there might have been the odd flash from Matoma, but they haven't looked like scoring, Brighton.
No, they haven't. They always sort of like that spare man at the back, and Jason Steele excellent on the ball. Manchester City saying, well, we're happy to go 2-on-2 or 3 on your 3 attacking players at the back, and we will deal with it. And they have done all half. Another long ball. Guardiola picks it up, and Manchester City back on the attack.
And it's with Rodri, and he then goes back to Stones, and there is the half-time whistle. And Manchester City are leading by 2-0. Doku has been so influential down the left-hand side. In fact, he set up the first goal. Cut back that Alvarez finished inside 7 minutes. And then Haaland with a powerful left-footed shot some 12 minutes later. Here are the thoughts of Chris Sutton.
Yep, a display in this first half of real authority from Manchester City. Lost the last couple of Premier League games, but bouncing back and have been by far the better team.
Thank you to Chris. Half-time at the Etihad. Manchester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0.
Thank you very much. Earlier on, the Merseyside derby went the way of Liverpool. They beat 10-man Everton by 2-0. Ashley Young sent off in the first half for 2 yellow cards. Back to the 3 o'clocks. Pat Murphy at Nottingham Forest.
It's 0-0 here, but Luton are just as good as Forest, although Forest should have gone ahead just for half-time when Sangare volleyed wide after Gibbs White's cross was deflected by Kaminski. But the outstanding player has been Chong on the left wing for Luton. He's really troubled the Forest defence, and with a bit more support they could have got the breakthrough. Can Luton be ruthless enough now in the second half? Concentrate hard to get something out of this. It's Forest 0, Luton 0.
Very good first half for Newcastle. Lee Blakeman.
They lead Crystal Palace 3-0. Jacob Murphy, Anthony Gordon and Sean Longstaff with the goals. The first saw Murphy chip Sam Johnston from the edge of the area. Nice finish. Offside flag went straight up. VAR overturned the decision. Goal stood. Murphy crossed for Anthony Gordon to tap home for the second before Longstaff pounced after poor Palace defending to make it 3 right on half-time. Palace have been awful. Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0.
Bournemouth are on course for their first league win of the season. John Akers.
They are, Mark, but they've led 3 times this season already in the Premier League and not won. They're leading Wolves by 1-0 at half-time. Solanke with a lovely flick after a Philip Billing cross low into the penalty area. It was a little Cruyff behind the back of the leg flick, first time past the goalkeeper. Wolves have had their chances but not been able to finish. Neto has hit the crossbar for them. Gary O'Neill will want them to find their shooting boots in the second half. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0.
1-0 at Brentford as well. John Southall.
Somehow Brentford 1, Burnley 0. Brentford have been so dominant. They could be 4 up, they could be 5 up before the goal. Mopai should have scored. They then had a goal disallowed before Mopai played in Mbumo. He crossed for Wissa and he tapped in at the far post. Trafford then denied Mopai. O'Shea cleared off the line and it was a one-man resistance. James Trafford saving from Mbumo, Wissa and Mopai. He has been brilliant, but defensively Burnley have been awful, shambolic at times. One chance for them, Amdouni 25 yards out out, saved by Flacken. Will Brentford rue missing these chances though? Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
Early game in the Championship finished Preston 1, Millwall 1 to the leaders Leicester at Swansea. Chris Coles.
Being held 1-1, Mark. Attractive game this between two in-form sides. Swansea striking first, a lovely Matt Grimes volley from the edge of the box. Brilliant technique to hit a dropping ball with his left foot. But Leicester level just before the break. Yannick Vestergaard's first for the club, bundling home at the back post, capitalising on some questionable Swansea defending. Swansea 1, Leicester 1.
Let's go to Middlesbrough, Birmingham next. Adam Cottier.
It is 0-0 here. Birmingham a little uncomfortable in Wayne Rooney's first game in charge. Borough have had the better of it. Josh Coburn with two big chances. He headed over and then shot wide when he really ought to have scored. Isaiah Jones had a goal disallowed. Birmingham's only chance, Christian Bielik with a low shot saved by Seni Dieng. Middlesbrough 0, Birmingham 0.
Stoke Sunderland all square as well. Aaron Paul.
Yeah, 1-1 here. Meaty Industrial has been a really good watch, Mark, with 2 goals coming in quick succession. The host took the lead 7 minutes in. Ryan May toe poking home following Luke McNally's knock on, but there was an instant reply from Sunderland. The potent Jack Clark tapping home from close range after Joe Bellingham's shot was spilled by Travis May. Could have had a second for Stoke. His header cleared off the line, whilst Wouter Berger has forced 2 good saves from Anthony Patson in the Sunderland goal. All square at the break though. It is Stoke 1, Sunderland 1.
Daniel Farke not enjoying his return to Carrow Road. Flo.
No, he isn't. Norwich 2, Leeds 0. In their last away game, Leeds conceded 3 in the first half. They've conceded 2 here. Shane Duffy opened the scoring with a header on 4 minutes. Gabriel Sara with a powerful strike the second. Leeds did have plenty of shots. Their attacking front four all had great opportunities, but fired wide, not clinical enough. Half-time, Norwich 2, Leeds 0.
Elsewhere, Blackburn 0, Cardiff 0. Rob Dickey's got Bristol City's goal as they lead Coventry by a goal to 0. Cian Harrett and Jack Radonis, with his third of the season, put Huddersfield 2-0 up at home to QPR. Jake Clark-Salter has pulled one back though for Gareth Ainsworth's side. Hull 1, Southampton 1. Will Smallbone putting the visitors ahead. Liam Delap's third of the season, equalising for Liam Rosenior's side. It's Watford 0, Sheffield Wednesday 0, West Brom 0, Plymouth 0. Let's go into League One. The leaders Portsmouth being watched by Sani Radravajula.
Well, it's goalless at the break, but Portsmouth really should be ahead. Colby Bishop with a hatful of chances to add to his 8 goals this season. The best across from the left, blazing over from about 6 yards. Carlisle, who will start today 4 from bottom, are battling to stay in the division, but are kind of lucky to be there when you think this young side that Paul Simpson's done has done so well this season. But they're holding Portsmouth at the break. It's 0-0.
Bolton 2, Northampton 0. Burton 2, Bristol Rovers 1. Charlton 0, Reading 0. Cheltenham 1, Cambridge United 0. Exeter 0, Wigan 1. Fleetwood 0, Lincoln 1. Leyton Orient lead Barnsley by a goal to 0. Oxford 1, Blackpool 0. Peterborough have come from 1 down to lead Wickham 2-1. Goalless between Shrewsbury and Derby, and Stevenage and Port Vale. To the Notts County, who are at Gillingham this afternoon. Katie Smith.
Yeah, Gillingham 0, Notts County 1. The away side much more threatening. Finally got their reward through a right-footed shot from top scorer Langstaff. Fair play as well to their travelling support, who've battled floods and storms to get here. They're in an uncovered stand in absolutely bonkers where they're here to watch their side's 5,000th league game. Could they be celebrating a win? Gillingham 0, Notts County 1.
Accrington lead MK Dons by a goal to 0. Goalless between Barrow and Wimbledon, and Bradford and Wrexham and Colchester and Harrogate. Crawley 2, Crewe 1. Salford 1, Swindon 1, Stockport lead Grimsby 2-1. It's Sutton 1, Morecambe 2. In the National League, AFC Fylde 0, Ebbsfleet 1, Aldershot 0, Hartlepool 0, Barnet 1, Maidenhead 2, Bromley 1, Oxford 1, Dagenham and Redbridge 1, Woking 1, Eastleigh 1, York 0, Halifax 1, Kidderminster 1, Rochdale 0, Oldham 1, Southend 2, Solihull Moors 0. Earlier in the Women's Super League, Villa 2, Tottenham 4. Into the Scottish Premiership, Connie McLaughlin watching Rangers Hibs.
Rangers 2, Hibs 0 at half-time. Dallasima giving new Rangers manager Philippe Clement the dream start with an early goal after shrugging his way through a sea of green shirts. Nicholas Raskin made it 2 after the Hibs keeper David Marshall was caught napping. The look of surprise on Raskin's face, I think, said it all. Remember, Rangers started this one 7 points behind leaders Celtic, who play Hearts tomorrow. Half-time, Rangers 2, Hibs 0.
Kilmarnock 2, Livingston 1 in the only other game in the Scottish Premiership. In the Championship, just 2 games as well. Dunfermline 0, Ayr 1. and Partick Thistle 0, Dundee United 1. In Scottish League 1, remember the storm has meant several games have been postponed in Scotland across the divisions today. In Scottish League 1, Alloa 1, Kelty Hearts 1, Annan 0, Queen of the South 1, Hamilton 1, Edinburgh City 0, and Stirling 1, Falkirk 1. In Scottish League 2 this afternoon, Bonnyrigg Rose 1, Clyde 2, East Fife 2, Stranraer 0, and it's goalless between Spartans and Dumbarton. Now remember, at 8 o'clock tonight, full commentary from the World Cup semi-final between England and South Africa. All the build-up from 7:30ish and then full commentary from 8 o'clock. There are domestic games going on this afternoon. All of these are at half-time. Northampton 19, Bristol 18, Saracens 13, Bath 20, and Leicester 12, Sale 14. And at the Cricket World Cup earlier, Sri Lanka beat the Netherlands by 5 wickets. Currently, England 169 for 8, chasing 400 to beat South Africa. That is on Sports Extra if you want to listen to it. This is BBC Radio 5 Live. It's exactly 4 o'clock. And we have some sad news to bring you this afternoon. One of the greats of English football, Sir Bobby Charlton, has died at the age of 86. A statement from his family is as follows. It is with great sadness that we share the news that Sir Bobby passed peacefully in the early hours of Saturday morning. He was surrounded by his family. His family would like to pass on their thanks to everyone who has contributed to his care and for the many people who have loved and supported him. We would request that the family's privacy be respected at this time. Sir Bobby was a World Cup winner, a European Cup winner, a man who played more than 100 times for his country and more than 600 times for Manchester United. The club have issued the following statement. Manchester United are in mourning following the passing of Sir Bobby Charlton, one of the greatest and most beloved players in the history of our club. Sir Bobby was a hero to millions, not just in Manchester or the United Kingdom, but wherever football is played around the world. He was admired as much for his sportsmanship and integrity as he was for his outstanding qualities as a footballer. Sir Bobby will always be remembered as a giant of the game. The club's heartfelt sympathies are with his wife, Lady Norma, his daughters and grandchildren, and all who loved him. Ian Dennis, our senior football reporter, is with us this afternoon. A much-loved man, Ian, and as the club statement says, a giant of the game.
Absolutely. This sad news, I think, will extend far beyond Manchester and indeed these shores, because Sir Bobby Charlton was one of the greatest players the world had ever seen. One of the few players to win a World Cup, a European Cup and the Ballon d'Or. I mean, what a life, what a player, what a person. As they said in the statement, a man of real integrity. He was the last surviving member of the Munich air disaster in 1958. Of course, he was a World Cup winner for England in 66. He was a true great for club and country. He captained Manchester United, obviously, to their European Cup success in 1968. He scored 2 goals. Manchester United then the first English side to win the European Cup. That was against Benfica at Wembley. He served his country with distinction, 49 goals in 106 appearances. I mean, that record was only beaten by Wayne Rooney, 8 years ago. And you talk about his career as well, such longevity. 1956 to 1980 was his playing career. And the other remarkable thing about Sir Bobby's career is that in over 750 appearances for club and country, he was only twice booked. Once against Argentina in the World Cup, and then there was a league encounter against Chelsea. And he'll be much missed.
A remarkable footballer, a remarkable man. And we will remember Sir Bobby Charlton throughout the course of the afternoon. And during Sports Report, we'll hear from Gary Lineker and from Alan Shearer, amongst others. Sir Bobby Charlton, who has died today at the age of 86. The rest of the news headlines with Dan Maudsley.
The Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, has described the aid being allowed through the Rafah crossing from Egypt into Gaza as a lifeline for Palestinians, but he's warned it can't be a one-off. He's among the leaders and foreign ministers from more than 20 countries who've gathered in the Egyptian capital Cairo to discuss the Middle East crisis after Hamas attacked Israel 2 weeks ago, killing 1,400 Israelis. Hopes of a breakthrough are low because Israel, the United States and Iran, which backs Hamas, aren't attending. Palestinian officials say more than 4,000 people have been killed as a result of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Danger to life flood warnings have been issued for the village of Llandrino in Powys as Storm Babet continues to bring heavy rainfall across the UK. Similar warnings are in place for parts of the Derwent in Derbyshire. In Angus and Aberdeenshire, the situation appears to be improving. The local council in Angus, one of the worst affected areas, says every person forced to leave their homes has been accounted for. A red warning for rain remains in place until 6 o'clock this evening.
Thank you, Dan. 4 minutes past 4. We'll be back at the Etihad shortly for second half of Manchester City against Brighton. First of all, England have lost against South Africa, and that is a big defeat. Eleanor Oldroyd.
It's the heaviest ever one-day international defeat, marked by 229 runs. They were all out for 170. Reece Topley couldn't bat. He injured his left hand in the South Africa innings. It all finished with a partnership of 70 between Mark Wood and Gus Atkinson, which kept the crowd entertained. 5 sixes from Mark Wood and 2 fours. Absolutely brilliant batting from him. 35 from Gus Atkinson as well, but Wood's 43 not out, the highest score of that England innings. So England absolutely battered by South Africa in this game in Mumbai. It means obviously that they've only got 1 win now out of 4. Also means their net run rate takes a bit of a beating, so they're now second from bottom in the table of 10, and only the top 4 qualify for the World Cup semi-finals, as we've said. So it will be, I think, almost certain that one more defeat will put them out of this tournament, and it's been a really crushing day for England in Mumbai.
Reaction to come throughout the evening here on 5 Live. Remember the other England-South Africa in the Rugby Union World Cup semi-final from 8 o'clock tonight. We've had a fairy tale at Ascot this afternoon. John Hunt.
Yes, indeed, Mark. When we arrived at Ascot this morning, we spoke to Dettori. He had his game face on. Frankie Dettori, his final day riding in Great Britain. No one could have believed he would have had 2 winners, but that's exactly how he leaves the British racing scene. The 2 winners this afternoon in the very first race, Trawler Man getting the better of former Ascot Gold Cup winner Kyprios in a sterling finish, and then he absolutely raised the roof a few moments ago in the Champions Stakes, driving home the horse who'd finished second in this year's Derby at Epsom, King of Steel. Pandemonium then broke out, Mark. He's still being interviewed and feted in the winner's enclosure here. There's a big party planned for him tonight. That will be some do, I'm sure. Dettori ends his career in Great Britain in astonishing style.
Thank you, John. Some games already back underway in the Premier League. Good half-time team talk by Gary O'Neill, you would have thought. John Southall?
Yeah, I would.
Oh, John Akers even.
No
sorry.
worries, doesn't matter. Too many Johns.
Yeah.
Brilliant finish from Cunha. Right-footed, straight from the kick-off. Wolves breaking on them, Neto driving forward. It's a right-foot finish. First time, curler, edge of the area. Really nice from the Brazilian. The Wolves fans on their feet. 1-1, game on, start of the second half.
Bless you, because you wondered whether to even correct me, didn't you?
I didn't know what to do.
Oh, feel free to tell me whenever you want to. Just tell me I'm wrong. So 1-1 then between Bournemouth and Wolves. Elsewhere in the Premier League, Brentford lead Burnley by 1-0. Newcastle are 3 up on Palace. And it's Nottingham Forest 0, Luton 0. We have Chelsea Arsenal from 5:30. Sports Report at just after 5 o'clock, when we'll have many memories of Sir Bobby Charlton, who has died today at the age of 86. Back to Ian Dennis and Chris Sutton at the Etihad.
Yes, thank you, Mark. The two teams just coming back out onto the field. No changes from Manchester City, and doesn't appear to be any changes either from Brighton. Chris, we're going to obviously at the top of the Sports Report hear from Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer with their thoughts, but that's sad news, the passing of Sir Bobby Charlton.
Yep, absolutely. A true great of the game, Manchester United legend, England legend. You said in your piece, a guy who'd been there and won everything. I know he was suffering from dementia, and it's a really sad loss. And I think everybody's thoughts go out to the Charlton family.
Very much so. Brighton, in fact, are going to make a change, and it's going to be Joel Veltman, who's come on for Milner. Before the match can restart, there's been a goal at Nottingham Forest. Pat Murphy.
It's gone to Nottingham Forest and it's scored by Chris Wood. The crucial touch came from Elanga, left foot finish by Wood, and the lack of ruthlessness that's plagued Luton was there for all to see. Forest 1, Luton 0.
We're back underway. Manchester City leading by 2-0. An early goal at Stoke City. Aaron Paul.
Stoke 2, Sunderland 1. Luke McNally with a header at the back post. Daniel Johnson with the corner, and there was McNally just to plant the ball past Patterson. Stoke 2, Sunderland 1.
So I don't think there's any real surprise to see the back of James Milner being replaced by Veltman after that torrid time he had in the first half.
No, absolutely. I think it's an admission from Roberto De Zerbi that he got things wrong making the change at half time. I think Veltman will be able to handle Doku better than Milner did in those 1v1 situations, but he'll still be tested because Doku in that first half was really outstanding for Manchester City.
So here is Alvarez. The Manchester City side, Ortega is in goal, a back four of Walker, Stones, Akanji and Guardiol, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Doku on the left, Foden on the right, Alvarez in behind Haaland, sky blue shirts, white shorts, playing from right to left as Manchester City are now attacking in the second half against a Brighton and Hove Albion side in their black and green striped jerseys and black shorts, playing from left to right, who have Steele in goal. A back four now of Veltman, Julio, Dunk and March, Baleba, Gross, Adingra, Matoma, Pedro and Evan Ferguson, who in the first half had replaced Danny Welbeck. The ball is hit over the head of Ferguson and gathered in by Ortega, and it's an underarm throw out to Ortega to John Stones. The next goal, in many ways in this game, is absolutely crucial. A third for City, you'd think they'll be home and hosed.
Yes.
Brighton then would look for a way back in it.
Yep, spot on. It's always the same, isn't it, at 2-0. I mean, Brighton thoroughly outplayed in that first half, but you're quite right. If they nick a goal, which we know they are more than capable of with the attacking players that they have in the team, then they'll feel that they can maybe get something out of the game. But the problem is they're playing against Manchester City, who have such a brilliant array of attacking players, and they can hurt any team in the world.
Here is Bernardo Silva, who picks it up in the Brighton half in a central position. Rodri, who was booked in the first half, coming back after that 3-game ban. Stones and Gvardiol, the two defenders combining, back out to Doku. What will the fresh legs of Veltman do with the Belgian? The Stones running away from the penalty area. Just to say as well, with that sad breaking news about the passing of Sir Bobby Charlton, if you're listening on BBC Sounds as Guardiol continues his run, delivers the low ball in, that Baleba will bring the ball away, then you can of course still listen, but troll through the BBC Sport website, because I'm sure there'll be lots of reaction to that breaking story, as many people will be coming forward to offer their tributes to a true great in the world game. Matoma picks it up for Brighton over the halfway line, just outside the centre circle. Veltman joins the attack. Adingra now out on this right hand side. Veltman continues to run forward on the overlap, but the ball goes back to Baleba, the young midfielder signed from Lille for just over £20 million. Cameroon midfielder with already high hopes as the long-term replacement for Caicedo. Now it's with Gross. Gross sends over the cross, and looking to arrive late was Adingra. Gvardiol headed it away. Probably one of Brighton's best moments in this game.
It was early stages in the second half, of course, but I just sense that Manchester City haven't started this second half with that intensity which they did in the first half. And decent play down that left-hand side, a ball crossed into the back post, but Gvardiol stood to his task pretty well and headed the ball clear, as there's a coming together between Veltman and Doku. Doku's still down.
So Doku is still down, writhing in agony. It remains 2-0 to Manchester City here in the early stages. Charlton are leading Reading by a 0-0 in League One, but there has been a red card at Bournemouth. John Akers.
Bournemouth are down to 10. It's completely stupid from Lewis Cook. He's put a challenge in on Hwang. It wasn't a good challenge. Hwang's gone down, got straight back up and thrust his chest into Lewis Cook. Then they're sort of head to head, and then Lewis Cook just gives the very slightest headbutt into the cheekbone of Hwang. He hits the deck quickly. Referee comes over, doesn't need to look at it. Straight red card, and Bournemouth are down to 10. Lewis Cook sent off.
And if that's for violent conduct, that will be a 3-game ban for Lewis Cook. Bournemouth, remember, who are yet to win this season. They did take the lead, but Gary O'Neill, against the club that he used to manage, of course, last season, and did such a good job in keeping them up. Wolves have since pegged them back, so 1-1 there. Brentford still lead Burnley by a goal to nil. Newcastle 2-0 up against Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest are 1-0 up against Luton Town. And here at the Etihad, Manchester City are leading Brighton by 2-0. Blackburn 1, Cardiff 0 is the latest score in the Championship. You're up to date with the goals on BBC Radio 5 Live and World Service as Walker pushes the ball out wide to that far side for Foden. Sky blue shirt, still in the sunshine here in the northwest of England. So we've been playing for just over 5 minutes since the restart. And then it goes back by Walker. Stones lets it come across his body and then all the way back to Ortega. Just his 17th appearance since he arrived on a free, the German keeper, as Akanji lifts it from one corner of the penalty area to the other side for Stones and back to Ortega. Brentford-Burnley, how's that started in the second half? John Southall.
Well, it's Brentford 1, Burnley 0 in, but a totally different complexion to this game. Vincent Kompany has made a double change. It's a different Burnley side. Kolyoshu and Amdouni have both had efforts, both over the bar. Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
Now, Pascal Gross, he's never scored against Manchester City. He's scored 4 goals at Old Trafford. But as Manchester City tried to play out from the back, the ball was quickly played back by Brighton, and Gross was onside, had a chance.
That's a massive opportunity. Gross, normally he's a good finisher, a composed finisher. It's a poor switch of play from Ortega, the Manchester City goalkeeper. Tried to find Doc, who was short with it, and it was Adingra who took the ball on his chest down the right-hand side, slipped an early ball into Gross, who was free 16 yards out. Couple of quick touches, but he was put under pressure. But it was a 1v1 situation. And there's a very, very poor finish. Brighton should have got a goal back there.
Premier League title winner, former Premier League Golden Boot winner in Chris Sutton, who is with us here today at the Etihad. 7 minutes into the second half. Stones poised, wondering what to do. There were 5 Brighton players quite high, ready to try and attack him. Played it out wide. Doku then plays it forward. Bernardo Silva will give chase. Dunk plays it back. Dunk then makes himself available right side of his own penalty area, and right-footed clears up towards Pedro. Pedro can't hold on to the ball, and a combination of Stones and Akanji help Manchester City get it back. Now with Foden. Haaland's making a run through the middle. Stopped though by Igor Julio. Along the ground towards Gross. Ferguson challenged by Bernardo Silva. Alvarez wriggles away from Baleba. Passes the ball out towards Doku. Veltman waits. Support comes. Adingra, they've doubled up. Plenty of green and black back in their numbers for Brighton. As Crawley 2, Crew 2 is now a latest score in League 2. And Stockport County have now been pulled back themselves at Edgeley Park. So Stockport County 2, Grimsby Town 2. Haaland keeps the ball in play just outside the penalty area on this left-hand side. Back with Doku level with the box. City coming forward. Doku looking for the ball inside to Bernardo Silva. The interception comes from Baleba. And now it's hit by Adingra up towards Pedro. Tries to take it on the run. Strikes his head. Goes out of play for a throw. Let's get an update from Newcastle. Lee Blakeman.
Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0. Palace trying their best to get back into this. They've just had a chance. Edouard played through on goal. Inside the area. Tried the shot. Deflected wide. Newcastle 3, Palace 0.
Guardiol, Alvarez, Doku on this near side the left, back with Alvarez. Bernardo Silva ahead of him, bypasses Alvarez. It's all very tight and congested, but City are able to get it away from the Brighton players, as now it goes out towards Foden, who's faced up one-on-one against March, and he goes on the outside of March with pace, enters the penalty area, looks for the cutback. Did that go behind for a corner? I thought maybe it had done, but the referee says not.
Yeah, March actually did really well. Foden isolates him, drives at him, gets to the byline, and looked like he was away from March, but March got the challenge in, and the ball somehow stayed in.
And now it's at the feet of Jason Steele, all in orange, away towards our left-hand side. So, Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1, Bournemouth down to 10 men. Brentford lead Burnley by a goal to nil. Newcastle, we've just heard, leading 3-0 at home to Crystal Palace. What's the latest at Forest? Pat Murphy.
Forest 1-0, Wood the scorer just after half-time, but a minute after that he should have made it 2. Headed over the bar. Really ought to have scored. So should Brown at the other end, straight at the keeper on the 6-yard line. It's still Forest 1, Luton 0.
Match of the day tonight, BBC 1, 20 past 10. I'm sure Match of the Day will be doing their own tribute to Sir Bobby Charlton. I know we will hear on Sports Report at 5 o'clock with Mark Chapman when we hear certainly from Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer after the sad news of his passing after only recently celebrating his 86th birthday. No change in the scoreline, and I'm sure there'll be something special at Old Trafford on Tuesday night in the Champions League when Manchester United entertain Copenhagen. That game will be live on BBC Radio 5 Live, as will Newcastle Dortmund the following night. The Champions League back next week. 11 minutes into the second half. Manchester City here lead 2-0. Dunks forward ball towards Pedro. High boot by Gvardiol cuts it out. We'll go to Priestfield. Featured game in League 2. Goal, Katie Smith.
And a big equaliser for Gillingham. Gillingham 1, Notts County 1. The ball was pinging around the Notts County area, ricocheting all over. Then it falls to Connor Mahoney, who spins, weaves his way in and slots it into the bottom left-hand corner. Gillingham 1, Notts County 1.
Ortega once again floats the ball forward towards Doku, and he gets away from Dunk. Dunk pulled out of the challenge, and referee Rob Jones says there was no foul.
Doku's gone down too easily there. He's had a storming game, but pushed the ball to the left, or the right of Lewis Dunk on that left-hand side he was, but went to ground too easily. Not enough contact. That's one for the simulation game.
Yep. There's a shake of the head though from Guardiola. But
yeah, we just see it again, and that there is very little contact. Ortega, not enough to go down in that fashion.
No, Ortega plays it short, gets it back and hits it long. Up then towards Haaland. Alvarez finds the Norwegian once again, and he turns, and Rodri keeping that move going towards Doku. Being a constant menace on this left-hand side, level the penalty area. Then he slips, springs back to his feet. Veltman saying he must have handled the ball, but Rob Jones lets play continue. Bernardo Silva. Now it's with Rodri. Short ball. Stones is playing ahead of the defensive midfielder. Shrewsbury 1, Derby County 0 is a latest score. Derby had unbeaten in 5. Stones now with a cross cut out by Dunk with Haaland behind him.
So again, that's your Manchester City centre half John Stones making a forward run on that right hand side, crossing the ball in. Lewis Dunk, who's had a steady game actually. Lewis Dunk making the clearance. Manchester City, I think it's fair to say, a lot made about Rodri being out there. Just more assured, aren't they, with Rodri keeping things ticking in the middle of the park.
Deft little touch by Alvarez. Stones has done ever so well to keep hold of it, and then he was caught late by Julio. That really was a clumsy challenge, and it will give Manchester City a direct free kick just outside the penalty area, right of centre. But once again, Stones, a central defender, causing problems for Brighton's defence.
Yeah, such a clever player, isn't he? It's a really daft challenge, it is. Stones had already popped the ball off, and Julio, maybe that's a bit of frustration. Julio, did he get a yellow card for that?
No,
he should have done.
Didn't see a yellow card shown by the referee, Rob Jones. It's a free kick then that Alvarez and Bernardo Silva are actually having a conversation with Pascal Gross at the moment. City still lead 2-0. You're listening to 5 Live on the World Service. Alvarez, the way he's poised with his hands on hips, he's probably got to go work the ball a lot more with his right foot. Bernardo Silva, because it's right of centre, it might suit the left foot of Bernardo Silva a little bit more. Brighton have got everybody back. Are they back the full 10 yards? Rob Jones doesn't appear to be too happy with that wall for the time being.
Alvarez scored one recently though, didn't he?
Well, it looks like he's... There's a purpose about Alvarez, the way he's eyeing it up. He's already scored one. 2-0 to Manchester City. Free kick outside the penalty area, right of centre. Alvarez. It is Alvarez, right-footed, gets it up and over the wall, but over the crossbar, goal kick.
Yeah, should have let Bernardo Silva take it. Alvarez normally more accurate than that.
Kilmarnock 3, Livingston 1, Colchester 1, Harrogate 0, and there's been a goal at Brentford. John Southall.
And a brilliant goal. Brentford 2, Burnley 0. Brian Mbumo just in the right of the D, curled it into the top left-hand corner. Fantastic finish from Mbumo. Brentford 2, Burnley 0.
That'll be their first win in 9, and it will be a happy 5th anniversary to their manager Thomas Frank, as they now lead Burnley 2-0. Unless, of course, surmising that Vincent Kompany's side can stage a comeback in the remaining 29 minutes. No other goals elsewhere to tell you about. Manchester City playing the ball back to Ortega. Brighton, who've lost their last 9 trips to Manchester City, they failed to score in 6 of them, and they've got some more defensive work as Foden takes that high ball effortlessly up the chest. Haaland completely unmarked, but Doku plays it towards Foden, who brings a save out of Jason Steele, clawing it away out towards Stones on that far side. Stones keeps the ball in play. Rodri steps forward, heads the area, and then he's dispossessed by Matoma, who is fouled. It'll be a free kick to Brighton, and we'll go to Swansea, where there's been another goal. Chris Cole.
And another goal for Leicester. The Championship leaders have come from behind to lead Swansea by 2-1. Abdul Fatawu, first goal for the Sporting Lisbon loanee. Fine finish into the roof of the net. Swansea 1, Leicester 2.
Football, live football on BBC 2 tonight is in the WSL. Leicester City against Manchester City. That's from 5 on BBC 2. After Sports Report, we've got Chelsea against Arsenal. We'll be getting the team news, I would imagine, from Alistair Bruce Ball in about 5 or 6 minutes' time. Pat Nevin is alongside him for commentary of that after Sports Report. And then from 7:30, England-South Africa in the second World Cup semi-final of that rugby union competition, with a right to play New Zealand in the final next Saturday. A steal under real pressure from Manchester City, and then Julio loses the ball, but the last touch comes off Rodri, and it will be a goal kick. Chris?
Yeah, I've got to say, I do think Jason Steele is excellent with the ball at his feet. The one thing where Brighton have had a little bit more joy in this second half is getting the ball, as they just have done, from Steele into Pascal Gross. That, for one of those holding midfielders, haven't really been in the game for Brighton, but in the second half they've been a little bit more prominent and are getting out.
Matoma, good run as well. Matoma, and there was a chance of a breakaway, and he was fouled by Akanji, who took him out, and that'll be a free kick. We'll go to Middlesbrough. Adam Cottier.
Middlesbrough 0, Birmingham 0. Middlesbrough still the better side with the most chances at the start of the second half here. The announcement was made that Sir Bobby Charlton had passed away, and both managers, Michael Carrick and Wayne Rooney, with their long association with Manchester United, joined in with a spontaneous round of applause. It's Middlesbrough 0, Birmingham 0.
I'm sure they did. Two former Manchester United players who would know Sir Bobby very, very well. Free kick to Brighton and Hove Albion, who still trail by 2-0. Peterborough 2, Wickham 2 is a latest score in League One. Gross floats the free kick out towards Adingra, off the chest on this near side, plays it back. Veltman. Sutton 2, Morecambe 2 is the latest score. Harrogate have equalised at Colchester, that's 1-1. Northampton have a goal back. Bolton 2, Northampton 1, and another goal at Norwich. Flo Pollock.
Goal for Leeds, Norwich 2, Leeds 1, an own goal. Dan James got to the byline, hit it across the face of goal, rebounded unfortunately off Shane Duffy. Game on, Norwich 2, Leeds 1.
You think as well that Wayne Rooney only beat Sir Bobby's goal scoring record for England in 2015. Those 49 goals that Sir Bobby scored in his 106 caps stood for a very, very long time. Brighton and Hove Albion are going to be making a change. Let's go to Connie McLaughlin, Rangers Hibs.
Yeah, it's Rangers 3, Hibs 0. Dallas Sima again made it 2 for him, 3 for Rangers. Almost burst the net actually from close range with this one. A dream start for Philippe Clement, the new Rangers manager. Rangers 3, Hibs 0.
Billy Gilmore's going to be coming on, and Rob Jones has just shown another yellow card. Now, was that to Julio? He wasn't booked earlier on, but he now has been booked.
He should have been booked earlier on, but that one, clear yellow card. In fairness, he's lunging to get the ball. Rodri gets there first, he goes to ground. There's a yellow card, so Gilmore coming on, and Ansu Fati coming on for Brighton. They've got strength and depth, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they might need it with some of the injury problems that they've got at the moment. But Billy Gilmour, who scored for Scotland in midweek, which was actually his first goal of his senior career in that friendly defeat against France. His first senior goal in 98 appearances for club and country. So he will come on. Ansu Fati will come on. And who is going to come off? It's going to be João Pedro who will go off for Ansu Fati. So the Spanish international comes on for João Pedro. And then the other change is going to be Carlos Baleba, signing from Lille. He'll be replaced by Billy Gilmour. Charlton 2, Reading 0 is the latest score in League One. You're up to date. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1. Bournemouth down to 10 men. Brentford 2, Burnley 0. Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0. Nottingham Forest lead Luton by a goal to 0. Team news on the way from Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Arsenal. We'll have commentary from 5:30 after Sports Report here on BBC Radio 5 Live. As Manchester City play the ball back on that far side, the right, all the way now back to Ortega. And then Ortega brings it out of his penalty area. Ferguson has gone towards him. Rodri was the outlet ahead of him. Now to Akanji on that far side. Stones has gone bombing on again ahead. He's got forward on a number of occasions this second half, the central defender.
He has done, and Rodri just sits in for him. Such marvellous awareness, Manchester City players.
Here is Doku, just bobbled a little bit from that pass from Rodri. Back to St James's Park, Lee Blakeman.
It's all over now. Newcastle 4, Crystal Palace 0. Newcastle on the counter, down the right, ball in, nobody picked up Callum Wilson, who slotted it easily past Sam Johnson. Newcastle 4, Crystal Palace 0.
I think I'm right in saying that today is actually Roy Hodgson's 500th game in English football, as Newcastle United will now go unbeaten in 8 games. Foden chips a diagonal ball towards Haaland. Haaland takes it in his stride, enters the penalty area, gets it onto his left foot. Good save by Steele. Very good save, moving out towards his right. And then Brighton will try and once more beat the City press from inside the penalty area, but Haaland denied a second.
I've got to say, it's a brilliant pass from Phil Foden, who took the ball and then reversed it into Haaland's path. Had made a good run, and wondered whether Haaland could have taken this first time, but I think maybe a little bit of doubt as the ball had fallen onto his right foot, but he chops back in on his left foot, and Steele makes a really decent save to his right-hand side as Haaland tries to find that far corner with his left foot.
61 goals that he's scored, 2/3 of them have been off his left foot. He wanted it on his favoured left foot, and Steele made the save. Team news as promised from Stamford Bridge. Alistair Bruce Ball.
2 changes apiece here. Bukayo Saka fit to start for Arsenal, as is Gabriel Martinelli, so they replace Leandro Trossard and Eddie Nketiah. Malo Gusto returns from suspension for Chelsea. He's in for the injured Disasi. Mudryk in for Broja. Nicholas Jackson on the bench, so it looks like Raheem Sterling or Cole Palmer through the middle for Chelsea.
Thank you, Ali. Pat Nevin alongside Ali for commentary from 5:30. Mentioned about a number of managers going back to their former clubs. Phil Parkinson doing the same at Valley Parade. Kevin McDonald, the caretaker manager at Bradford, had won 3 on the spin, but they're behind at Valley Parade. We're expecting a crowd of over 25,000, I think, for that game in League Two. But it's Wrexham who lead by a goal to 0, and Bristol Rovers are down to 10 men. Bristol Rovers, Joey Barton's side, have seen Ryan Wood sent off in League One. So Bristol Rovers, who are trailing 2-1 away at Burton. Matoma sent forward. Matoma with a chance. Ortega makes the save on the front edge of his penalty area.
What a chance for Brighton. This all comes from Lewis Dunk. Hits an unbelievable pass, I think, into Ansu Fati, I think it is. He's hit a pass all of 50 yards from the edge of his own box into Fati, who turns, feeds the ball to Matoma, left-hand channel. I thought he should have lifted the ball over Ortega. And he went low, and Ortega made a smart save, stood big, but that's another big opportunity. They've had 2 this half for Brighton.
Brighton have improved in this second half. Here is Ansu Fati, delivers the cross. That was blocked. But why have they improved?
Oh, I don't think they could have been any worse than they played in the first half. I do think that Manchester City, they've not had the same intensity, but that's just good play from City there. From Brighton there.
Adingra with the cross, and Extending himself was Rodri to head it behind for a corner kick. Said at the very start of this second half, the next goal is crucial, and you think that Brighton have actually had two good chances in this second period. The one for Gross that he put wide, and then the save from Ortega to keep out Matoma. And Brighton and Hove Albion, with 20 minutes remaining, are still in this game as they trail by 2-0.
Just seen the Matoma opportunity again on our monitor. That's a huge chance for him. Could have lifted it, could have gone to Ortega's left-hand side, hit it straight at him, but it all came from an unbelievable pass from Lewis Dunk.
March with a corner towards the far post, and the downward header hits the side netting. And some of the Brighton supporters, despite them actually having a better angle, thought that it had gone in. I mean, Matoma climbed so high on that left-hand side, and now you've got the ironic cheers from the City supporters teasing their Brighton counterparts.
Yeah, he got up well. It's a left-footed in-swinger, went all the way over Ortega. Matoma, what a leap to head the ball. But he couldn't get it on target.
Charlton 3, Reading 0 is the latest score in League One as we go back to Pat Murphy at Nottingham Forest.
It's still Forest 1, Luton 0, but we've got two experienced players on now as subs. First of all, we've got Ross Barkley, and then Andros Townsend had a bad time with injuries at Everton on trials of January at Luton. Good luck to him. It is still Forest 1, Luton 0 though.
Changes are afoot for Manchester City. Jack Grealish is going to be coming on. We might see Calvin Phillips, as here is Foden. Got a good scoring record himself against Brighton, unable to add to it yet, but he finds Doku, and Doku now with a shot that took a little bit of a deflection on its way through to Steele, but he made the low save.
Another driving run from Doku, similar to Grealish. He plays out on this left-hand side, that always wants to come in on his right foot and feed the ball in to the far corner. I tell you what though, seen enough of Doku this season, or from Doku this season, to think that Grealish has got a bit of a fight on for his place in this Manchester City team.
Yes, that's the voice of Chris Sutton, but Doku has certainly been extremely attack-minded today, as March has got attacking on his mind. He's running forward, he reaches Ferguson as well with the cross, where it's last touch off Ferguson, out for a goal kick. Barnsley have equalised at Leyton Orient 1, Barnsley 1. Bournemouth Wolves, the latest there on the south coast. John Akers.
14 minutes plus added time remaining. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1. Wolves should have gone ahead. Hwang on a follow-up after a save from Neto, from a curler from Cunha. Left foot, first time, leaning back. He hit it over the bar. It's Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1.
I think I'd worked out of the City regulars. I mean, even Rico Lewis was away with England's under-21s, but you had Ortega, you had Sergio Gomez and Mateo Nunes, who were probably the only other City players who didn't feature for their respective countries during this last international break. So City are going to be making changes, and Alvarez releases Doku. The keeper's committed himself, he gets there, but he's out of his area. Comes to Alvarez, who goes goalward and blocked by the thighs of a backpedaling Dunk.
Just couldn't get the elevation. Alvarez, 35 yards out on the left-hand side, an open goal. Dunk got back.
Brighton now believe they're playing with purpose. Here is Matoma, enters the penalty area, partially cleared and put back in by Ansu Fati. They deserved that, Brighton. We said that the goal could be coming. The clearance from Akanji was on the stretch, and Ansu Fati, the substitute, poked it in to reduce the arrears. 17 minutes remaining. Manchester City 2, Brighton Hove Albion 1.
Yeah, we've got a game on now, haven't we? I've got to say, Jason Steele did well initially. When Doku looked like he was through, Steele made the challenge, Alvarez had the chance, Dunk got back, and then from one end to the other, it's a devastating break from Brighton. The ball goes all the way through. Another brilliant driving run from Matoma, pops the ball in. It's a poor clearance, I think, from Akanji, falls to Ansu Fati. Well, it's about 12 yards out, and it's a clever finish actually, passes the ball past Ortega, beats him with his near post. 2-1, game on.
There must be a check for VAR. There's certainly going to be a double substitution, so we'll find out what the latest is, because there's been another goal. It's at Forest, Pat Murphy.
Another one for Forest, and another one for Chris Wood, and also made by Alanga. A deft cross, clever glancing header. Forest 2, Luton 0.
John Stones being carefully managed by both club and country. He is increasing his game time every time. Just over an hour against Italy in midweek, 74 minutes today. He's been replaced by Ruben Dias, and Jack Grealish is the player who's going to be coming on, and they won't be sad to see the departure of Doku. will Brighton's defenders, because he's been a threat from the first whistle.
Yeah, he has had an outstanding game, and John Stones wasn't bad as well. But a couple of good subs to bring on if you're Manchester City. But I suppose, if you're Jack Grealish, you're thinking, well, I need to really make my mark to get back to being first choice in this Manchester City team. We know Pep likes to rotate, but competition on his hands.
Crawley 2, Crew 3 is the latest score. You're up to date. 5 Live in the World Service. We've got 15 minutes remaining. Reminder, at Sports Report, we'll be hearing from both Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer after the sad news of the passing of Sir Bobby Charlton. That'll be at Sports Report 5 o'clock. As here at the Etihad, Manchester City lead Brighton by 2-1. As Brighton have continued extending their club record of scoring now in 18 successive away games since they lost at Brentford a year ago by 2-0. We're going to Brentford now, John Southall.
Brentford 2, Burnley 0. Burnley down to 10 men. Connor Roberts just sent off for a second yellow card. Just before that, Luka Koleoshu missed an absolute sitter, 6 yards out, open goal, went with his left foot, should have gone with his right, put it wide. Horrible miss. Brentford 2, Burnley 0.
Here is Gross to Julio. Mentioned about the website for the reaction of the sad news of Sir Bobby Charlton. Read a very interesting piece on the website in the week from Guillaume Balaguer about how De Zerbi has taken Brighton to the next level, and he's looking to try and snatch a point here against Pep Guardiola, who is somebody who really does admire the Italian, who's done a wonderful job in his 13 months in charge at Brighton. Mind you, the club, full stop, is run superbly well. Another goal at Carrow Road, Flo Pollock.
Leeds level, Norwich 2, Leeds 2. It came from a corner. Somerville got the ball on the edge of the box. Great shot in off the post. Norwich 2, Leeds 2.
Stockport County are back in front. They lead Grimsby by 3-2 as they look for an 8th successive win. Here is March coming forward for Brighton. The referee plays the advantage. There must have been a foul from Foden. Gross keeps it alive, just nudges it into the path of Veltman. Now out towards Adingra on this near side the right, playing from left to right, 2-1 they trail. Adingra to Gross. Veltman played back to the Dutchman. Now with every outfield player in the Manchester City half, the City crowd sense that they need to play their part. You wouldn't have said that in the first half. Here is Matoma. They're playing with belief now. Back inside to Ansu Fati once again. Closed down by Bernardo Silva. And Alvarez has to tidy this one up. And Walker will clear the ball away. And Harrogate Town have come from behind and now lead Colchester by 2-1 away from home in League Two. We'll go to Bournemouth. John Akers.
Gary O'Neill's Wolves pushing for a winner. Wolves are 1-1 at Bournemouth, but Neto's just put over the bar from 10 yards unmarked. It's Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1.
Remember, Bournemouth are down to 10 men after that sending off of Lewis Cook. Here is Matoma. Tries to switch play out towards the left, strikes the knee of Walker and goes back to Ortega. Chris Sutton.
Manchester City retreating now. That goal from Brighton, and the game has changed, totally changed, where Manchester City had full control. Now it's Manchester City who are nervy. Gotta say again, the pass from Lewis Dunk into Mitoma, wonderful pass, and Mitoma didn't make the most of that.
Quite rightly, in Sports Report we'll be paying a lot of time to the and tributes to Sir Bobby Charlton, so any of the reaction that we don't get from today's games will be on the 5 Live Football Daily Pod. Certainly I'll be keen to hear from Roberto De Zerbi as what he said to his players at half time, such as being the transformation. But 12 minutes remaining of normal time, and Manchester City are going to have to dig in here. Walker out towards Foden, far side the right, over the head of Alvarez, headed away by Julio, back to Alvarez, helps it on its way out towards the right side of the penalty area for Rodri. Sky blue shirt, still the sun shines on those supporters in the top tier in the stand on the far side, as Bernardo Silva now running back towards the centre circle, being tracked by Gross. Bernardo Silva though waiting, passes it square towards Rodri. It bypasses Bernardo Silva towards Kyle Walker. And City just trying to wrestle back a little bit more control in the closing stages of this game here on 5 Live. Commentary to come at 5:30, Chelsea-Arsenal. The Rugby Union second World Cup semi-final. The winners of England-South Africa will play New Zealand in the final next Saturday. Tomorrow's 5 Live Sport, Hearts Celtic at 2:15, to be followed by Aston Villa-West Ham. The 5 Live Formula 1, the US Grand Prix at 7:45 tomorrow night. Monday Night Club Monday, and Tuesday Champions League action from Old Trafford and St James's Park as Foden battles to win the ball, helped out by Alvarez, who comes forward to the edge of the D. One more touch takes him into the penalty area, out towards Grealish, left hand side, strikes the body of Veltman. Grealish though gets it back. Gvardiol has stayed forward. City lead by 2-1. Just over 10 minutes remain. Watford 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0 is the latest score. And there's been another goal at Nottingham Forest. Pat Murphy.
It's gone to Luton. Ogbeni scored a mix-up in the penalty area. Nobody really cleared the free kick, and he scored from 6 yards. Keeper no chance. Forest 2, Luton 1.
Manchester City going in search of the ball. Dunk with a back pass towards Steele. He won't have much time to clear this. City trying to keep the intensity. Dunk will clear it only as far as Bernardo Silva. Back towards Grealish. Brighton have given the ball away under pressure. Here is Rodri. He had his heels clipped by Ferguson. Referee has said play on. And now the ball is passed out by Bernardo Silva to Grealish. Reluctant to try and take on his man, whereas Doku would have go past him every time.
Absolutely. That's a couple of occasions where the ball has gone out to Grealish and he's taken the safe option. Total contrast really, but let's give him time. He's only been on the pitch for 5-10 minutes.
Here is Phil Foden steaming on the overlap. Is Walker far side the right corner of the area. Walker now inside. Alvarez tried to play a cute ball towards Foden, who'd come from nowhere. Brighton stopped that move, but the loose ball spins away out towards that far side. Walker plays it back towards Akanji. Let's see if we've got time to get to Lee Blakeman at Newcastle.
Newcastle leading 4-0. It should be 5. Almiron's just been denied on a one-on-one by Johnston. He's on as a sub, as is Sandro Tonali. Newcastle 4, Palace 0.
We'll be at St James's Park for that game against Borussia Dortmund on Wednesday night in the Champions League as Haaland plays the ball back towards Diaz in the centre circle. Goal at Ibrox, Conor McLaughlin.
Rangers 4, Hibs 0. It's been a difficult afternoon for Cyril Dessers, but after about 6 failed attempts, he finally got the ball in the back of the net. Mistake at the back, he just rolls it into the back of the net past Marshall. Rangers 4, Hibs 0.
Here is Bernardo Silva to Diaz over the halfway line, with the exception of Bernardo Silva and Akanji, who's just collecting that ball now literally on the halfway line. Every other player was ahead of the Manchester City sky blue shirts there, but they go back because Brighton are not allowing them to go through them at the minute. As back with Bernardo Silva, City are having to be patient. Bernardo Silva and Grealish midway through their own half now with Bernardo Silva. Another goal at Gillingham, Katie Smith.
Notts County have restored their lead. Gillingham 1, Notts County 2. A boomer from Lewis Macari came on a sub in the first half outside the area, 20 yards. Lovely stuff. Gillingham 1, Notts County 2.
Terrific strong run by Gvardiol. Tried to play it out towards Grealish. The ball though runs behind. It'll be a goal kick. These are the latest scores in the Scottish Premiership. We've heard from Connie. Rangers 4, Hibs 0. Kilmarnock lead Livingston by 3-1. Latest scores in League 2. Accrington lead MK Dons by 1-0. Barrow Wimbledon is goalless. Bradford City 0, Wrexham 1. Colchester 1, Harrogate 2, Crawley 2, Crewe 3, Gillingham 1, Notts County 2, as we've just heard from Katie, but they won't go top because Stockport County leading Grimsby by 3-2. It would be an 8th successive win for Dave Challinor's side. Salford City 1, Swindon 1, Sutton 2, Morecambe 2. They're the latest scores in League 2. I'll bring you League 1 and the Championship in a moment, but we have 7 minutes remaining of normal time. Would you say it's on a knife edge?
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean the way Brighton play, you think they're going to create an opportunity or two. They will just go for it. I mean they've got control of the ball at this moment in time, and it's not cut and dried for Manchester City.
Are they able to fashion one more opportunity, Brighton, before they'd scored to get the goal back through Ansu Fati? They did have 2 opportunities through Gross and then Matoma. Here is Gross as Gilmour plays it forward, taken well, high on the chest by Ferguson. He brought that under control very, very well. Out towards Adingra on this near side, the right. Back then towards Gross, midway through the City half. But then unable to hold on to the ball was Veltman, but it will run free and out for a Brighton throw, level with the City penalty area on the right-hand side. Now it's with Veltman on the stretch, closed down by Grealish. They advance a few more yards. Another Brighton throw in, as there's been a goal at Bournemouth. John Akers.
It looks like Wolves might have won it. The return of Gary O'Neill. It's the substitute Kaladzik who runs through one-on-one, tidy finish past the keeper. It's Bournemouth 1, Wolves 2.
Well, many Many people felt that he was harshly treated with his dismissal after doing a wonderful job to keep Bournemouth up in the Premier League last year, so that would be sweet for Gary O'Neill if it was to stay like that. Bradford City have equalised at home to Wrexham, 1-1 at Valley Parade, as we will now go to Brentford and John Southall.
What a goal this is. Brentford 3, Burnley 0. Saman Ghoddos must have been 25 yards out and absolutely thrashed it into the bottom right hand corner. Brentford 3, Burnley 0.
Matoma keeps the ball in on that left hand side. Manchester City still lead by 2-1. Salford have had a man sent off in League 2. As the ball is played through to Ansu Fati, tries to tickle it up in the air towards Ferguson as the ball goes back. So Salford City, who are down to 10, trailing at home to Swindon by 2-1, and a goal at Swansea. Chris Coles.
It's going to be 11 wins from Leicester's 12 championship matches. They have a third. Kelechi Iheanacho clean through, sits the goalkeeper down, places it in the corner, and it's Swansea 1, Leicester 3.
Goals happening everywhere. It was 2-2 at Carrow Road. It no longer is. Flo Pollock.
No, it's not. Daniel Farke's return to Carrow Road looks like it will be a happy one after all. From 2-0 down, Leeds lead Norwich 3-2. Somerville on the counter-attack, sweeping it into the back of the net. Norwich 2, Leeds 3.
Latest scores in League 1. Bolton 2, Northampton 1. Burton lead the 10 men of Bristol Rovers by 3-1. Charlton continuing their unbeaten run under Michael Appleton. 7 unbeaten, they lead Reading 3-0. Cheltenham 1, Cambridge 0. That could be Cheltenham's first win of the season. Exeter 0, Wigan 1. Fleetwood 0, Lincoln 1. Leyton Orient 1, Barnsley 1. Oxford United still going well. They lead Blackpool by 1-0. Peterborough 2, Wickham 2. Portsmouth Carlisle is goalless. Shrewsbury 1, Derby County 0. Stevenage and Port Vale remains goalless at Broadhall Way. Matoma is attacking for Brighton, finds Fati. Fati drifts out towards that left hand side. Brighton looking for an equaliser. They have a dreadful record away at Manchester City, but their side have put in a much improved second half performance and are pushing now for an equaliser. City have got everybody back behind the ball. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, City happy to defend deep and get the distances right, not let Brighton play through them in that central area, which Brighton are trying to do, but the subs have worked for Brighton, haven't they?
Certainly have. Here is Ferguson, one of them. Came on for the injured Welbeck. Grealish makes a foot into the challenge. He was booked earlier, was Grealish, for dissent shown to the assistant referee. Haaland shows his strength, holds off the challenge of Gilmour. Gilmour bounces off Haaland. Sliding in was Veltman, and the referee is saying, I'm bringing it back for persistent defending, because you wouldn't have known that they were trying to foul him, and no wonder that Bernardo Silva pats Haaland on the back. Terrific play from the big man.
No, it was. Driving run that large, wasn't it? Gilmour and Haaland, and Gilmour just bouncing off Haaland, and a little nutmeg on Veltman. What a powerhouse Haaland is there. A couple of get-offs to Gilmour, and I think the referee quite right to award the free kick, and it just allows Manchester City to take the sting out of the game a little bit.
3 minutes of normal time remaining. Manchester City lead by 2-1. Here is Rodri. Earlier, the result in the Championship, Preston stopped their losing run with a draw at home to Millwall. Millwall, who have Adam Barrett in caretaker charge, so 1-1 at Deepdale. These are the latest scores in the Championship. Blackburn lead Cardiff by 1-0. Bristol City 1, Coventry 0. Huddersfield could be getting their first win under Darren Moore. They lead QPR 2-1 as Alvarez plays the ball out along the ground towards Grealish, left corner of the penalty area. Grealish waits, slows it down, whereas Doku will be going to the byline. Once again, doesn't have that opportunity to try and beat Veltman, or if he did, he didn't want to take it. Keeping a hold of the ball instead for Manchester City as the minutes tick away for Brighton. 2 minutes of normal time remaining. Where was I? Huddersfield 2, QPR 1, Hull 1, Southampton 1, Middlesbrough 0, Birmingham 0. John Eustace, who was harshly sacked after winning his last 2 games, for Wayne Rooney to take over. That remains goalless at the Riverside. Michael Carrick's side had won their last 5 before that. Norwich 2, Leeds United 3, as we've heard from Flo. Stoke City 2, Sunderland 1. Swansea 1, Leicester City 3. The leaders coming from behind. Watford leads Sheffield Wednesday by 1-0. West Bromwich Albion 0, Plymouth 0. Foul on the far side. That'll be a free kick to Brighton, and there has been a goal. It's at Fratton Park. It's at League One. Sani Rudravajula.
And it's Portsmouth 1, Carlisle United 0. Connor Shaughnessy, the centre-back, with a booming header from a corner into the final minute of injury time. It will keep Portsmouth at the top of the table as it stands. It's Portsmouth 1, Carlisle United 0.
It'll be a 6th straight win and extends their unbeaten run in League One to 24 games as Burton 4, Bristol Rovers 1 is the latest score in League One, and Blackpool have got an injury time equaliser at second placed Oxford United. Oxford 1, Blackpool 1. Still, there's a stoppage here because of an injury on the far side. A goal at the City Ground, Pat Murphy.
It's the equaliser for Luton. Adebayo, one of the substitutes, using his power and his strength to hold off the challenge from the deep cross, finish with his right foot. They really deserve to be back in this, Luton. Forest 2, Luton 2.
Well, the result at Anfield earlier was Liverpool 2, Everton 0. These are the latest scores in the top flight. Bournemouth down to 10 men 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. Wolves have come from behind. Burnley have had a man sent off in Connor Roberts as they trail 3-0 at Brentford. That'll be a first win in 9 for Brentford. Manchester City 2, Brighton 1 here. Newcastle lead Crystal Palace 4-0. And now, as we've just heard from Pat, Nottingham Forest 2, Luton Town 2. Match of the day tonight, 10:20 on BBC One. Van Heck is going to be coming on for Brighton and Hove Albion, and Middlesbrough have got a late goal, so they'll keep up their winning run. Middlesbrough 1, Birmingham 0. Could be a 6th straight win in all competitions for Michael Carrick's side. Charlton 4, Reading 0 is the latest score in League One. Sutton 2, Morecambe 3 is the latest score in League 2. As the stretcher is being called for on that far side, and we're into 4 minutes of added on time. But of course this will be extended due to the injury on the far side. Let's get news of that goal from Middlesbrough. Adam Cottier.
Yeah, Morgan Rogers on as a sub for Borough with a really neat finish at the near post after being set up by Matt Crooks. Middlesbrough 1, Birmingham 0.
Is it March? Yeah, it is. It's March who's down.
Solly March over on the far side from us. Looks a bad one. Van Heck stripped and ready to come on.
Let's get an update from Newcastle. There's a lengthy stoppage here at the Etihad, still 2-1 to City, but Newcastle, well, they're unbeaten, Lee Blakeman.
They certainly are, leading 4-0. Crystal Palace, credit to them, keep trying to score. They've just had an effort from a free kick from Edouard. It was a good effort, and Nick Pope, called into action for the first time all day, made a brilliant save to tip it over. Newcastle 4, Palace 0.
Not been a good day really for Brighton in terms of injuries, has it? Danny Welbeck hobbling off in the first half, and now this looks like a bad one to Solly March. Crawley 2, Crew 4 is a latest score. Let's go to Bournemouth. John Akers.
A minute left of injury time. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 2. Bournemouth down to 10 men, are giving it everything they've got to try and find an equaliser here, but Wolves hanging on with Gary O'Neill at the moment.
The thing is with Solly March as well, it was probably 6-7 years ago. He missed nearly a year of football with a serious knee injury, knee ligaments. So let's just hope that it's not as serious as that. So we've heard from John at Bournemouth, we've heard from Lee at Newcastle. What about Pat at Nottingham Forest?
It's still 2-2. Forest thought that Chris Wood had got the winner then and his hat-trick, but it was ruled out for offside. Luton had done splendidly to come back 2-0 down, 10 minutes to go. There are 2 minutes left of added time, and it's Forest 2, Luton 2.
And Pat, whilst you're with me, obviously Sports Report, that book that you brought out, which will be coming up very, very soon, minutes away from Sports Report, with Christmas in mind, a paperback edition now in the shops.
I believe the phrase ideal Christmas gift springs to mind, Ian. Out in paperback, updated, made 1 or 2 factual errors, they've been swept up. Your contributions are still in there, though.
In all good bookshops. Thank you, Pat. Solly March is being carried off on a stretcher as they're now full-time at Bournemouth. John Akers.
And a win for Gary O'Neill, returning to Bournemouth. Wouldn't you just know it? Bournemouth 13 Premier League games without a win. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 2. Bournemouth took the lead through Solanke, and then Cunha with a lovely finish, and then off the bench, Kalajic with the winner to send the Wolves fans delirious. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 2 full-time.
Tom Shaw in caretaker charge of Lincoln after Mark Kennedy's sacking. Their opponents today, Fleetwood, have just had a man sent off, so they're down to 10 as Lincoln still lead by 1-0, and there are no other goals to tell you about. But always a sad sight to see a player carried off on a stretcher, and Solly March is that unfortunate player for Brighton as Van Hecker comes on to replace him.
Yeah, he's been such a brilliant player over the years for Brighton. Solly March, so versatile, so let's hope everything's okay with him. But Van Heck coming on as centre half. Julio has gone out to left back for Brighton,
and there was no play there for at least 3 minutes. We had an additional 4, so that means that we've probably still got at least another 4 minutes of playing time here but that has stopped a lot of the rhythm of the game as Brighton still trail by 2-1. Full time at Fratton Park. Sonny.
Portsmouth 1, Carlisle United 0. Pompey stay top of League One. A big header from Conor Shaughnessy with a minute to go. It's given Portsmouth all 3 points. Portsmouth 1, Carlisle 0.
Rangers have won 4-0 at home to Hibs in the Scottish Premiership. Commentary tomorrow from Tynecastle at 2:15 of Hearts Celtic, to be followed by Aston Villa West Ham. We've got commentary coming up in 5:30. Chelsea against Arsenal. Here is Connie at Ibrox.
Yeah, Rangers 4, Hibs 0. Abdallah Sima giving the new Rangers manager Philippe Clement the bounce the supporters were hoping for. 2 goals from him, 1 from Cyril Dessers, and a first half strike from Nicholas Raskin, giving Rangers a comfortable lead. It means they cut the gap on Celtic to 4 points. They play tomorrow. Rangers 4, Hibs 0.
Kilmarnock 3, Livingston 1 in the other game in the Scottish Premiership. Brighton playing out from the back over on that far side. Ball played up towards Fatty. Tries to roll away from Akanji. Now Akanji's on a yellow card, is he? He was booked earlier on, was Akanji? The ref.
Yep, he's gone. Second yellow, correct decision.
Absolutely. So Akanji's shown a second yellow card and has been sent off. And Akanji now will miss the Manchester derby away next Sunday as a result of that, for a 1-match ban.
Brilliant play from Fatty. Draws Akanji into the ball, uses his body, rolls him, and Akanji brings him down. And Pep Guardiola trying to make a substitution now, trying to get Nathan Ake on.
Well, Akanji has shown a second yellow and then a red. Manchester City will see this game just as they did against Nottingham Forest, with 10 men. And Akanji trudges down the tunnel. Ake's going to come on. Full time at Forest. Pat Murphy.
Forest 2, Luton 2. Wood 2 goals early on seemed to be it for Luton, but they hit back with Ogbeni and Adebayor late goals. A deserved point. Forest 2, Luton 2.
And full time at Newcastle. Lee.
8 unbeaten for Newcastle, 4-0 winners over Palace. Murphy, Gordon and Longstaff in the first half. Wilson wrapped it up midway through the second to make it 5 straight home wins for Newcastle. Newcastle 4, Palace 0.
It's Alvarez who's been sacrificed for Nathan Ake. So by my watch, we're in probably an estimated last 60 seconds of the added on time, as it goes long. We only had a minimum of 4, but due to that injury to Solly March, it's certainly extended the matter somewhat. As the ball is hit by Gross into the penalty area, Dunk is up from the back. Gvardiol heads it away, picked up by Adingra. Is there to be a dramatic twist here in the closing stages? Silva clears the ball away. Full time now at Brentford. John Southall.
3, Burnley 1, Brentford 1 up at half time, and Boomer then curled in a beauty to make it 2. Koleosho missed a sitter for Burnley, and Godos lashed in an absolute stunner from 25 yards. Brentford's first win since the 19th of August. Brentford 3, Burnley 0.
Brighton are coming on strong. We're in now the 7th minute of added on time. Southampton have got a late goal. Hull 1, Southampton 2. Ball goes in towards Fatty, headed away by Manchester City. Matoma keeps it alive, keeps the ball in play on that left hand side. Here is Julio, rolls it in short, laid off. Gross plays it to Veltman, outside the D. They work it against the 10 men to Adingra. Played now towards Gross. Gross with a cut back in towards the near post, behind for a corner. City are hanging on.
Oh, they are. It's a game of 2 halves, isn't it? And Brighton worked the ball brilliantly from left to right. Ball crossed in, crucial clearance. I think it was Gvardiol at the near post. Pops it behind, Brighton corner.
Gross to take the corner kick for Brighton. 7.5 minutes of stoppage time. It's rolled short to Adingra. Gross will run behind him. They play it out towards Gilmore. Hits it first time in towards the far post, and it goes out of play. Salford 2, Swindon 2 is the latest score. Exeter 0, Wigan 2 is another latest score. As now, by my watch, with at least the amount of time that we had for the March injury, I think that might be it.
Yep, the referee is saying to Ortega, come on, you've got to hurry up. And kick the ball up the field, but for Manchester City now it's just about hanging on. The 3 points so comfortable in the first half. They're having to dig in a bit.
They've won every match at home in 2023. It would break Manchester United's record for a Premier League side of consecutive home wins in all competitions. As Matoma fouled on that far side by Foden. He pleads his innocence to referee Rob Jones. The crowd, they howl with derision at that decision, because all of a sudden Brighton now, in the 9th minute of added on time, have been given a free kick on that far side of the left that the 10 men of Manchester City are going to have to try and repel. It's a high line outside the penalty area. Grealish is getting involved in a bit of a pushing match, which the referee Rob Jones will just have a word in to try and make sure he's in control of that situation. Gross is telling Gilmour this is only going in one direction. Gilmour had offered him as the short option. 2-1 to Manchester City. Live on BBC Radio 5 Live. Gross, far side the left, right-footed, diagonal ball, Dunk trying to meet it, claimed by Ortega.
It's not a good free kick from Grossi. Floats the ball up, Ortega allows him to come and gather the ball. I think that's it.
Your thoughts, Chris Sutton?
Oh, I mean, an amazing game. Manchester City in total control in the first half, 2-0 up at half-time. Brighton got themselves back in it with the goal from Fati late on, and then Manchester City were hanging on at the end of the game. Akanji sent off, Aki came on, and down to 10 men. Job done though. Manchester City have stopped the rot, but it wasn't easy.
Alvarez and Haaland in the first half. Fati with a goal getting back for Brighton. Akanji sent off later. Manchester City now with 21 consecutive wins at the Etihad. It's finished. Manchester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 1.
Sports report on the way where we'll remember the life of Sir Bobby Charlton, who has died today at the age of 86. Let's just tidy up the full-time results.